Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello, MacPack. It is great to be back with you for another episode of our program. This is On the Move, the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. I, of course, am your host, Mac Worley III, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We have a really good episode in store for you, and I think you guys are going to like it, honestly. I mean, I put a lot of work into this one, so, not that I don't put in work on the other ones, but this one I took a little bit of time. I went through, I was trying to find a bunch of articles, a bunch of sources, and I'm basically just going to play a lot of clips of things that I found interesting. Let me go ahead and actually tell you guys what the feature topics are for today. First and foremost, we're going to start out, I want to talk about something that we didn't get an opportunity to talk about last week. It was one of our feature topics last week, so we're going to lead with that. Statists calling for checks and balances on individual liberty. So that's going to be something we're going to talk about right next here. That'll be the next topic. But after that, we're going to go into primary analysis. I want to talk about what's happening on both sides. Also, I want to talk about why Ted Cruz didn't play, quote, dirty tricks, unquote, against the Carson campaign, and why CNN should apologize. So I want to set the record straight on this. I want to talk about this. I got a bunch of different clips and articles, and I'll let you guys be the ones to decide. I'm not even going to tell you that this is the fact. I mean, I have my opinion, but you come up with your own. You know, I think that the evidence stands for itself. It's clear. So anyway, then we're going to go into Bernie Sanders attacking billionaires while he's receiving billionaire backing. I'll play some clips off of that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Then I want to talk about why money in politics actually isn't the problem. And I want to actually get to the root cause, because I feel like we get distracted, we get diverted from the real problems at hand. And this, I think, is just a scapegoat. When people complain about money in politics, it's an easy scapegoat to get to. And I don't want to offend anybody if you've said, oh yeah, you know, money in politics. And even I have been guilty of that at times. But then, after thinking about it, I've come to other conclusions. And I've really found what the root cause, I believe, is. And I'm going to make my case. Anyway, then I want to talk about what the United States government is apparently doing behind the scenes. I think that they're actually working to crash the Russian economy, and I'm going to talk about how and why. Then I want to look at, this is another conversation from last week we didn't have an opportunity to get to. Last week I had like 5 hours worth of show and, you know, only 3 hours to do it in. So I want to look at the constitutional power of the presidential pardon. I got some articles on this, got some opinions from you guys I'm going to read. And anyway, I'm really looking forward to this, because this is a conversation we had in our group on Facebook. By the way, if you haven't joined our group, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You need to come join us, because, man, we have a lot of fun. We talk about all sorts of stuff. So, and I really love the diversity of opinions we have there. So, anyway, that group is facebook.com/groups/OnTheMoveShow. And I would appreciate it if you guys would join over there, just because I love talking to you guys. That's my favorite way to interact with you guys. And then I also, if we have time again, this is like 3 episodes now. I want to compare and contrast the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. I think it is very important to look at this and draw some parallels of this time. You know, I'm going to actually try to bump this up into the first hour if I can. So anyway, then I got some further proof that our economy is collapsing. I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've noticed and some of the stuff that I want to cover, let you guys know about layoffs, all this stuff, store closings, all this good, well, not so good stuff. But and we got a whole bunch of other stuff, too. Got a lot of other random articles. So if somehow, some way, we run out of stuff in our feature topics, I have a lot more to talk about. Anyway, so let's go ahead and let's just dive right into this first feature topic here. I want to get this one done, out of the way, so we can move on to some other things here. So first things first. This is the status calling for checks and balances on individual liberty. So first and foremost, let me explain the story. Many of you probably are already aware, if you're listening to this program, you probably already know that back in 2013, I was unlawfully arrested for open carry. All right. Since then, by the way, if you're not aware of what's going on there, since then I was wrongfully convicted. I was actually found guilty of displaying a weapon, even though Washington State is an open carry state. So not only was I wrongfully convicted, but they tried to throw other charges in there, and the whole reason why they actually initially arrested me, put me in the back of a cruiser, was because they said I was trespassing on a public sidewalk. Now, I don't want to get too far into the story because I know if you're a frequent listener, you know all about this situation, and I'm probably boring you to death. So, without really skipping over a whole lot of details that you'll need to know, I just want to get to the point here. We won the appeal. We actually won in Superior Court. So we overturned the conviction. And you would think all would be great, right? Everything would be all fine and dandy. So anyway, that's actually not the case. So I found out now that the Superior Court decision is being essentially appealed. The city of Vancouver is filing for a review of the decision. So in essence, they are appealing the appeal. I didn't even know they could do this, but that's the situation on my case. But just so you know, I wanted to give you that background. So now back to the status for call for checks and balances. I posted the video of my arrest, and I have all sorts of crazy comments from the status on there. I've had death threats. I've had people say that, if they saw me out there, they would have shot me too, even though I'm simply just walking peacefully. Yeah, I'm armed, but I'm not touching my weapon. I'm not pointing it at anyone. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm not hurting anyone in any way. All right? So anyway, I have all sorts of crazy comments on this video, and one of them struck me. I felt like it was like a gut punch because I feel so sorry for this confused person. He said that he doesn't see anything wrong with putting checks and balances on individual liberty. That's his words. That's pretty much verbatim. I actually tried to go back and find the comment, but I couldn't find it again prior to the show. But yeah, that's pretty much verbatim, and it blew my mind. First of all, I just want to give a little rundown here on what a check and a balance is. All right, I don't want to preach to the choir or patronize you guys, but just to clarify, a check and a balance is something that is set up to prevent power from centralizing, okay? Too much power from centralizing. So, for example, in our government, we use checks and balances to prevent the one branch from gaining too much power. I mean, largely, we have had these other branches cede their authority, their power. Congress has made themselves more and more useless, and essentially we've got an imperial presidency. But that's what it's for. It's so that these branches of government will use their own self-interest, and that's the only way those will work. For just to point that out, there is that the branch of government, for example, Congress, if they want to maintain their power, they have to use their checks and balances against the other branches to make sure that the other branches don't encroach upon their power, their authority. All right, and that's the point of a check and balance, to make sure that power isn't centralizing somewhere. So the idea that too much power can centralize from an individual right, all right, within an individual, within a person, that's just unbelievable, all right? Putting a check and a balance on individual rights is, you are saying that an individual can have too many rights, and that can somehow centralize power. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. This is what I'm saying. So that statement, saying that you want to put checks and balances on an individual right, is actually very dangerous. In my opinion, the biggest danger that we as a society pose is centralization of power from our government, and also the collectivization of individual rights. And what that is, again, I've explained this before, and if you guys haven't read this before, I would highly recommend it. This book will blow your mind. It will change the way that you look at the world. Frederick Bastiat, The Law. That's the book to read. It's only like 70-something pages, I think. You can read it in one day. You can sit down and read it in one sitting. It's awesome. This book will change your life. It will explain to you in irrefutable ways. You can't argue with the logic. Again, basically, and I'll boil some of the premise down to it. You'll read it within the first couple pages, but he explains and reiterates and gets it. He hits the nail on the head, essentially. But ultimately, it boils down to this single point, that collective rights don't even exist. They are based on groups of people coming together to protect their individual life, liberty, and property. That's it. So collectives don't have any more rights than anyone else, all right? Just because you have 10 people, that doesn't mean that those 10 people have more rights than one person, because those 10 people's rights are based upon individual rights. There's no such thing as a collective right. So when people collectivize individual rights and then try to claim that because there's more of them, they suddenly have more rights over more rights or more power or more authority than an individual, and therefore they have a right to use their collective rights against others, it just is illogical and it doesn't make sense. Using collective rights to hurt another person's rights or to violate another person's rights goes against the entire idea of individual rights to begin with, and that's what their power is based upon. Anyway, I actually don't really explain that as well as Bastiat. Bastiat kills it. So, again, that's The Law by Frederick Bastiat. Anyway, this whole idea, though, that statists calling for checks and balances on individual rights, to me, it's almost like the saying, or if someone was to say, your freedom is a threat to mine. And I just want to ask you guys, is there such thing as being too free to where you are a threat to others? Is that a real thing? I would argue that it's not. I don't think that you can possibly be too free. And I want to play a clip here. This is from Ben Sass, and I really think it's awesome. He talks about individual rights. And anyway, I think you guys would like this clip. So here it is.
Let me ask you, because a lot of people are looking to you as one of these future leaders of the conservative movement. What is a conservative in your view today? Define conservatism in the 21st century via Ben Sass.
Oh, thanks. That is a great question. America is the most exceptional nation in the history of the world because the U.S. Constitution is the best political document that's ever been written, because it says something different than almost any people and any government has believed in human history. Most governments in the past said might makes right, and the king has all the power, and the people are dependent subjects. And the American founders said no. God gives us rights by nature, and government is just our shared project to secure those rights. Government is not the author or source of our rights, and you don't make America great again by giving more power to one guy in Washington, D.C. You make America great again by recovering a constitutional republic where Washington is populated by people who are servant leaders, who want to return power to the people and to the communities. Because what's great in America is the Rotary Club. It's small businesses, it's churches, it's schools, it's fire departments, and it's little leagues across this country. What makes America great is not some guy in Washington who says if I had more power I could fix it all unilaterally. That's not the American tradition.
So, one of the things that Ben just said, I got a clip here popping up. All right, one of the things that Ben just said here, Ben Sass, is that government is a shared project. All right? It's not. It does not have this unique authority over you. We, as a people, we consented to being governed, and therefore we granted some limited powers to the government. We said with the first bill, the Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments, we say this is what you can't do. It's a set of negative liberties, as Obama likes to call it, negative liberties, and that's true. But these are largely ignored nowadays. You know, it seems like it's just been eroded away and ignored. For example, you know, and I've mentioned this before, but one of the candidates, and we're going to get to this in a moment, but one of the candidates running in the GOP primary right now, and this may offend some of you guys. I would love to hear what you have to say about this. So hold with me here for 1 second. I have a hard time with the fact of our Bill of Rights being ignored. For example, the left, they ignore the fact that we have a Second Amendment. It says it shall not be infringed. They just ignore it and they continue to infringe upon it, and there's no consequences. Nothing happens. We just continue to get more and more infringements stacked upon our right to keep and bear arms. And on our side, the statists among us, the statists that are in the Republican Party. Again, I'm not even really a Republican. I'm a libertarian in philosophy, and I don't really care who's in the party. I look at what their policies are. I don't care what the party is. But within the GOP, we have statists in there as well. And one of the ones I just want to poke at right now, and this may be your guy, and again, I'm not trying to offend you, but I personally cannot vote for this person. His name is Marco Rubio. Now, many of you already may be aware of the Gang of Eight bill and all of that stuff, his issues with amnesty and all that. I'm not even talking about that. I don't like that. I don't like his involvement with the Gang of Eight, but that's not why I can't vote for him. The reason why I can't vote for Marco Rubio is because he actually believes that it's okay to ignore the Fourth Amendment. He thinks it's okay. And why do I say that? Because he actually wants to continue and expand upon the NSA bulk spying program, where they're collecting your information, your data, without a warrant. I'm sorry, that's unconstitutional. And I think that we should be consistent. If we talk about the Constitution, if we think that's an important document, then maybe we should follow it. And again, there's some question, and I'm in the process of researching this right now. I haven't quite got this nailed down yet, but anyway, there's question of whether or not Cruz is eligible based on his natural-born citizenry. Now, a lot of people are saying that a lot of constitutional scholars are saying that a Supreme Court, if they were to rule on this, they would rule in Cruz's favor, saying that he would be considered a natural-born citizen. Some people are saying on the other side. So I'm in the process of trying to. I've heard a lot of experts talking about it, but I don't like to just listen to the experts. I like to become an expert on it and figure out why the experts are saying these things. So I'm not quite ready to talk about that yet with a definitive answer, other than just quoting somebody else. But I will be very shortly, and I'll talk to you guys about that. And I think it's important that we're consistent. If we think that the Constitution is important, we should want to follow it, and we should expect, and not only expect, but demand that our leaders follow it. So, as far as Marco Rubio is concerned, I just can't vote for him because, first of all, I don't even trust the fact that our government is actually serious about fighting a war on terror. I think that it's clear, it's evident that they have funded, created, armed, and trained ISIS. We have the evidence of that. So, and we can see that they're not serious, about destroying ISIS when they were bombing just random targets while they're letting a highway run up and down in Syria that's carrying ISIS supply. It's a known ISIS-only highway that was going on. And we had information about an ISIS headquarters that we didn't bomb. We knew this was an ISIS headquarters. We didn't bomb it. And when France was attacked, then we gave France the intel. Does that make any sense? We are not serious about destroying ISIS because ISIS is a proxy army of the United States government and other offshoots, other governments out there. But it's not, again, it's not that we are in control of ISIS. We're not. The United States government is not in control of ISIS. The United States government is in control of ISIS as much as you would throw a beehive at your opponent's feet. That's you're just basically pissing off a bunch of bees and throwing them at somebody. That's all it is. So, and these U.S.-backed rebels, honestly, I believe they're essentially terrorists as well. So we're arming terrorists. The United States government is arming, funding, creating terrorist groups. They're also training them. There's a CIA training camp that's in Jordan. This is not a serious fight against terrorism. And honestly, who do we stand the biggest chance of dramatically changing our way of life? Some terrorists in a foreign country that may or may not come here. And if they do come here, our government wants to make us defenseless against them. Look at what happened in San Bernardino. Our government sees that we are attacked by terrorists, and how do they respond? They want to take away our guns. That doesn't make any sense. The bottom line is your government can't protect you. It won't protect you. In fact, it behooves the government to keep you afraid so you'll give up more of your personal rights, your individual liberty. Again, the more afraid you are of the terrorist threat, the more likely you are to sacrifice liberty. And Ben Franklin, he says, those who would sacrifice liberty to gain a little security deserve neither and will lose both. Look at what's going on. I just want to point out, look at what is happening in France right now. They've continued to extend the state of emergency after they were attacked. That was months ago. Months ago, they were attacked. And they still have a state of emergency right now? They got martial law over there? I think either it's essentially martial law or it is actually declared martial law. They have a state of emergency. I would imagine that it's declared martial law. They keep extending it. It's just unbelievable. The government has complete control in martial law situations. Individuals don't have personal individual rights. You can't. And first of all, these are basically benign dictatorships over there. Yeah, they got presidents, but yeah, the people don't have real rights. Yeah, they have natural rights, but their government doesn't respect them, and they'll violate them whenever they want. They basically can turn your rights on and off however they see fit. They're benevolent dictatorships. So I think we stand more of a threat here. The greater threat is our own government, governments in general. And in fact, if you look, historically speaking, if you want to look at the statistics here, all right, you want to just look at the evidence, governments in the last century killed more people, more human beings than any unnatural force on earth. I've said that before. I must say it again. It's important to keep in mind. If we're talking about real threats, all right, are we going to worry about lone wolf gunmen? Okay, we can worry about that. But I tell you, how you actually resolve that issue is you allow people to be armed so they can take out the lone wolf gunmen. You don't pull the guns out of their hands. And as far as spying on the American people, seriously, come on. You cannot arm, fund, and train terrorists overseas to overthrow a foreign government and then say, on the other hand, yeah, but we got to spy on you guys to make sure that we're protecting you from terrorists. I mean, not only, just ignore, pull a Marco Rubio here, guys, and ignore the Fourth Amendment for a moment. And just on its face, that argument, all right, it doesn't make any sense. But we also have the Fourth Amendment, which says before anything, all right, before all of your other amendments in the Constitution, government, before all of that, these first 10, these are things you can't do. And not the 5th or the 6th or the 7th or the 8th or the 9th or the 10th, but the Fourth Amendment says that the government can't spy on you without a warrant. Now, hey Mac, metadata isn't it's not your personal information. It's not spying if they get your metadata. Let me ask you, all right? I just want to ask a really simple question here to you, okay? Metadata. It's basically who you call, the durations of the call. They say that's all they're getting. We know that to be false. And if you look at the stuff that Edward Snowden released, it has been proven to be false, that they're not just spying on and getting your metadata. All right, they are collecting every single human electronic communication, recording it, and checking it later. They have algorithms that run through all this stuff. Okay, but let's just assume that it's just metadata. We're just talking about the metadata here, people. So who you call, the durations of the call, things along those lines, all right? I've used this example before. I'm going to use it again. Do you think that personal private information that you would assume that it would be considered private, things that you have an expectation of privacy of, could be gleaned out of metadata that contained this information? You call a doctor, all right? They see that you call a doctor's office. Then you call a herpes hotline. Then you start calling some ex-girlfriends that are on your phone. You think they could figure out something that you've maybe been exposed to? You think maybe there's some private information out there that maybe you wouldn't want other people to find out? I mean, there's a lot of other ways that could be used. That's just one example. That's just one. I could come up with 50, but I'm not going to waste the time here. The point is that metadata is private information. In the Supreme Court case, by the way, that said this was okay, that said it was legal for them to use metadata, they are abusing it. The case stems from a guy who was under surveillance. He threw away his phone bill in the trash can, and the Supreme Court ruled that because he threw it away, they could use the metadata. All right, you know how they say that once you throw away trash, the government, because you've already thrown it away, it's not yours anymore. You've relinquished ownership of it. The government can come and they can dig through your trash. That's what they did. Now, let me ask: is that equivalent to them collecting bulk, either with a warrant, a general warrant, by the way? And our founders were very much against general warrants, but with a general warrant where they just say, everybody, all the customers of Verizon, we have a warrant to search your stuff. Before they didn't even do that, by the way. Before Edward Snowden, before they got caught with their fingers in the cookie jar, they didn't even have a general warrant. But now they got general warrants. Maybe we have to trust them because it's all secret. How are we supposed to know? They got their secret laws and their secret courts, even with their secret interpretations. How are we supposed to know what they're doing? How can we consent? Again, this is a government that has its powers granted to it by the consent of the people. How can we consent to something that we don't know is going on? We can't provide consent if we do not know what they're doing. Not only that, but what they're doing is against the Constitution. So again, statists, checks and balances, the checks and balances on individual liberty, mind-boggling. It's blowing me away. This is an Orwellian word game, and they're essentially calling tyranny checks and balances, and it's a brainwashing. I mean, that is essentially what it is. They are brainwashing the public to crave their chains. They want people to be less free. And I have another story here that I just want to get to, and I find this particularly, I'm just going to read the headline here. This is on dailymail.co.uk. This is an article written by James Nye, and it's a little bit old. It's a little dated, October 2014, but it's titled, "British Spies Can Go Through Americans' Telephone Calls and Emails Without a Warrant, Reveals Legal Challenge in the UK." So basically, the NSA is collecting up all of your data, and then they're sharing it with foreign countries. Anybody have a problem with this? Anybody see any issues with this at all? Again, we have a protection against unlawful, unreasonable search and seizures. They have to have some kind of evidence. Then they take that evidence and they go to a judge, and the judge issues a warrant specifically identifying where they're going to look, the things to be seized, things along those lines. Very, very specific. Very specific. Instead, they're saying, everybody who's an American, everybody who has a cell phone carrier, everybody who uses the interwebs, everybody who does this and that and the other. Those are general warrants, and our founders were extremely against general warrants. That's the kind of tyranny they had to suffer through under Great Britain. So I just thought, I didn't really come to talk about that. I just thought I'd mention it today. But the idea about statists getting upset for you carrying a gun in public or asserting your rights, again, they're concerned that you're going to have too much freedom, that you're going to hurt other people. So, again, if we're following the non-aggression principle, and essentially the common adage where people say your rights end where mine begin, then we shouldn't have any problem. Again, as long as you're not hurting other people or violating their rights in some way, taking their things, those kind of things, you're in the clear. So let's talk specifically about some examples that some people mention, and a lot of people like to bring up when we're talking about the non-aggression principle. In fact, let's do that when we come back from a break. And by the way, I realize now I have not done the housekeeping that I am supposed to do every episode. I always forget to do this, but check us out. We broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at our hub, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's our website. Go to OnTheMoveShow.com. And you can also, if you don't want to go to listen on the website, you can listen directly on Spreaker.com. That's SPREAKER.com/On the Move Show. Please follow us on there. You guys would be doing me a personal favor. You'd be helping get our show, showing up in search results and whatnot a little better. The more people that follow us, the better we are showing up in search results, so you'd be helping us spread the message of liberty. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow, and you can message us live on the air. I'll respond to your tweets if I have time to get to them, or if I'm looking, if I notice. But yeah, and also don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/OnTheMoveShow. You guys are going to want to be subscribed to that, because I'm in the process right now of trying to figure out how to do a live video cast during this podcast so you can see me and hear me. We're going to continue doing the audio podcast version, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not a tech guy, but I'm trying to figure out how I can actually live stream the show as well, so you guys can have a visual component to this as well. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and cut to our commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the non-aggression principle, some of these examples of violations of the non-aggression principles. So, and then we're going to get back into our featured topic. So you guys don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
All right, we're back. If you want to join today's conversation, the number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, 360-450-5625. You can message us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. Get us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Lots of ways you can get involved here, so feel free to join the conversation. So let's just talk about some of these non-aggression principles, some possible violations of them that I think kind of are gray areas that some people wouldn't really think of. So, first of all, we're talking about statists calling for checks and balances on individual rights, and again, I think that's an Orwellian word game, calling tyranny checks and balances, basically trying to brainwash people with a word game. And basically, we should all just learn from that common adage, your rights end where mine begin. So, looking at the non-aggression principle, it's basically that. It's your rights end where mine begin. So let's come up with some examples of that. Some people get upset when they hear that doctors are going to refuse treatment to somebody for any reason. All right, so a doctor decides maybe they just don't like the person. Maybe it's their arch rival, somebody they've hated their entire life. They're not going to help them, or maybe it's somebody who doesn't like a certain race. Maybe they're a bigot and they say, "Oh, I'm not going to treat African Americans," or maybe they have a religious problem. So maybe it's, that they aren't going to treat a homosexual because they feel that in some way that would violate their religious beliefs. Okay? That is actually not a violation of the non-aggression principle. They're not being an aggressor to anyone. It would actually be an act of aggression to force them to treat them. Again, it's not like, for example, if somebody was coming in with a gunshot wound, it's not like the doctor is the one who shot that individual. the doctor is actually not being an aggressor. Now, they may be being a jerk. I won't deny that. If they see somebody bleeding out and they do nothing about it, they're being a real jerk, but they're not being the aggressor. Someone forcing them to do something against their will is an act of aggression. So, just to put that out there, that is actually something that some people talk about as a violation of the non-aggression principle. But in fact, I don't believe it to be. I believe that it is consistent with the non-aggression principle, and to force someone, that the whole idea here is force. Force is an act of aggression. And that is how you know if you're either being forced to do something or someone is forcing you to do something, someone's violating the non-aggression principle there, and it's pretty easy to figure it out because it's usually the person doing the forcing. So, let's talk about pollution. All right, this is another good example here. So, let's say I have a farm, or let's say a factory. That's a better analogy, all right? Let's say I have a factory. It's my private property. I should be able to do whatever I want, right? Right. But your rights end where others begin. So let's say I have a big pipe, and I just pump out all of my toxic waste out of that pipe directly into the river. Hey, it's on my property. It should be okay. I'm only polluting my land. That's all right. But the only problem with that is that river, it flows. It flows out of my property and into other people's property. And let's say there's a bunch of farmers down the road or downstream, and those farmers are using that water for all sorts of things like drinking, bathing. They also, put it all over their crops, and now it's poisoning their crops and hurting their customers, and they go out of business because of all the poisoned water that has been put on their crops, and maybe some of them die. Maybe my pollution is responsible for killing other people. See, that right there is an act of aggression. Though I'm on my private property, and yes, you should be able to do whatever you want on your own property, but your rights end where others' rights begin. And you don't have a right to pollute a common resource like a river. You don't have a right to do something that is going to actively hurt someone on the other end, the receiving end of that. So that by polluting that river, and you're actually committing an act of aggression. So now let's talk about a third example here. I just want to mention taxes. Now, I've sat and thought long and hard, how do you fund a government without violating the non-aggression principle? How do you do that? Because taxes are forced. You have to pay your taxes. Try not to pay your taxes. See what happens. Don't really do that, or at least don't do it and say, well, Mac told me to do it. No, I'm not taking any responsibility for that, all right? If you don't pay your taxes, someone's going to kick in your door, and they're going to force you to do it. And if you don't, then they're going to take you off to jail. I mean, that's the way. By the way, did you know that the IRS actually has guns now? Unbelievable. No wonder they're the most feared organization in the world. It's insane. So yeah, taxes are actually coercive if they're forced taxes. It is actually an act of aggression. And some people would say, that people who buy into the social contract theory, people who say that because you're in the society, you are acknowledging that there are certain rules and things that you must do to be a part of that society. Therefore, you are, in essence, signing a social contract, saying that you agree to follow these rules and what have you. I personally, I think that would be a great theory if only there was a way to opt out. So, for example, if I, being born here in America, decide, you know what, I don't want to follow that law because it violates my personal rights and there's no victim in that law, there's no way for me to opt out. If I try to opt out, I will be be arrested for not paying my taxes. Or let's say I decide that I want to, do drugs or something, and doing that is not hurting anyone. It's only hurting myself. All right. I can't. There's no way for me to opt out of this so-called social contract without leaving the country. And if you go somewhere else, you're going to be subject to probably harsher laws and worse tyranny. But again, you were born here. So at a minimum, you are a natural-born citizen as far as I've been reading. And like I said, I'm going to cover more about the Ted Cruz thing. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that stuff. Now let's go ahead and move forward here into some of the next featured topics here. So first of all, let's do some primary analysis here. I'm going to shift around some of my papers here. All right. So we got New Hampshire coming up here. And there's some first things I want to mention here. Some people have to do really well in order for their campaign. By the way, if you don't know, if you haven't heard, Rick Santorum, I believe, is out of the race now. Last I remember hearing, Rand Paul, that was a slip there. Rand Paul has fallen by the wayside. He's suspended his campaign. And let me just point out, I think that those... Mike Huckabee, he's also out too. And by the way, anybody notice when Donald Trump was talking about after Iowa, he was like, "Oh yeah, I've become such a good friend of Mike Huckabee. He's trying to snipe those voters." So I just think that's funny how these guys, they quickly try to jump on this. All right, so let me just point out here. First of all, I think with Rand going and Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee, I think my personal opinion, maybe you disagree, I'd love to hear from you. 360-450-5625. 360-450-5625. Call in, give me your opinion, or get me on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow. But I think those three candidates that are out there, I think that the natural place for those voters to go, at least a majority of them to go, would be Ted Cruz. And also, I just want to point out, Ted Cruz, from a poll I remember back a couple of months ago, so the numbers may have changed, but Ted Cruz was actually the top guy for people's second choice. So Donald Trump was the top choice for people's first choice back in that poll, but he was the last choice for people's second choice. So basically, what that means is you either love Donald Trump or you hate Donald Trump. And let me just point out the fact, he's got, like, let's say roughly 30% of the Republicans voting for him. So that's a very niche market, because especially if you're the last choice for everyone's second choice, essentially you either love Donald Trump or you hate Donald Trump. And I'm telling you right now, can't vote for Donald Trump. Eminent domain, such a big deal to me. Can't stand it. And Donald Trump's all about it. He loves that crap. He supported the Kelo versus the City of New London. Look it up. It's a case talking about I think it's Pfizer, the Viagra company, coming in and basically trying to steal people's property in order to use it more effectively, because the City of New London needed people to pay more taxes because they were spending too much damn money. The city was not pulling in enough tax money to support its overhead. Again, that government was too big. That's the problem. It's not that they need to make more money, but as a result of their incompetence, their overexpanded government, their bloated bureaucracy, they decided that they're going to steal private property and give it to another business, to a private company, because they feel that they will use that property better for tax revenue purpose. They will make more money, therefore more money will go to the government with that property. That's what Donald Trump supports. So anyway, you either love Donald Trump, you don't, or you hate him. And you'll either vote for him or you won't. And he's got 30% roughly of the party. But if he's got no chance of winning the general, in my opinion, absolutely no chance. If you want a progressive, why vote for a progressive light? Why pick somebody who's pretending to be a conservative, who's not really Donald Trump, when you can go for either a full-fledged socialist, Bernie Sanders, or a progressive who supposedly likes to get things done, but can't name one thing that she's done, Hillary Clinton. So anyway, he doesn't stand a chance because 70% of the Republican Party will not vote for him. He's got 30% on luck who would vote for him no matter what information comes their way. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and no one would bat an eye who's voting for Donald Trump. Not my words. Those are his words. That's what he thinks about you if you're a Donald Trump supporter. He thinks that you're so stupid that no matter what he says or does, you're going to vote for him. Again, not me saying that. That's him saying that. So, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump. I'm giving you my opinion now. Anyway, so moving on here. Donald Trump has to do well in New Hampshire. If he doesn't, this is going to be the momentum going down the tube. Again, his whole campaign is about winning. It's about winning. You're going to get so tired of winning because you're going to be winning so much that you'll enjoy a lose if it happens, but it won't because it's Donald Trump. You'd enjoy a lose for a change, but you can't. You just can't help but win. He's Donald Trump. But after Iowa, well, there's some cracks in that armor. There's some issues with winning when you suddenly start to lose. Your first one, you come out of the gate swinging, and you're like, yeah, oh, wait a second, I'm not winning. I just lost. Again, if your name is not Ted Cruz, you lost Iowa. All right. If you were running in that race, you lost. The only person that won Iowa was Ted Cruz. That's it. And I find it interesting that's what's going on in the mainstream media. Mainstream media is basically trying to downplay Ted Cruz's victory. And first of all, Ted Cruz's victory in Iowa is evidence that you do not have to play ball with the Republican establishment. You don't. If anybody should have won Iowa, it should have been Rubio. I'm not impressed or surprised with Rubio's surge in the polls. He's the establishment candidate. He's the guy that the establishment backed. They're courting Donald Trump because in their eyes, they would rather lose the general than give the party over to Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz will dismantle the Republican establishment. All right? This Republican power structure that is set up on crony capitalism, it is not based on capitalism, pure unfettered capitalism. It is crony corporatism, crony capitalism, whatever you want to do, backroom deals, however you want to look at it. It's all about big business colluding with big government. That's what it is. And these guys want to stay in power. The establishment, they want to stay in power. Ted Cruz is bound and determined and has promised to take them down. And he's the only guy running right now that has a record showing that he's willing to consistently stand up against his own party. Sorry, no one else can say that. No, none of these other guys can say that. Maybe they're a political outsider, so they don't have that problem. But what happens when you go to Washington is you get corrupted. You get corrupted. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Just because you're a political outsider does not mean that you're going to be, saved from the corruption that happens to Washington. You're just going to get sucked into that too. Maybe you'll be an exception to the rule, but Donald Trump, he's part of the people that have been buying off the politicians. He says so. He's already admitted when you give these politicians money, they'll do whatever the hell you want. I don't understand how that's not admitting to a bribe and how he hasn't been put in cuffs yet. That's just me. But I digress. So Rubio, I don't consider that to be a win when he took third place in Iowa for him. A lot of people are considering, that was his impressive third place finish. I don't understand how that's impressive. He's the Republican establishment in Iowa, a very conservative state. So he should have done great, and he should have been the top three. I'm blown away that Trump did as well as he did, but honestly, it's Donald Trump. He's been. You see how much he's been covering the news? You're saturated with Donald Trump. That's all you see is Donald Trump crap in the news. So going into New Hampshire, Chris Christie and John Kasich, I think they're going to have a good showing in order to go anywhere else because they have spent a lot of time. They've had a lot of time invested into New Hampshire. For example, John Kasich has had 100 town halls. 100 town halls in New Hampshire. He might as well have moved into New Hampshire. I think he's in Ohio. Has he even been to Ohio since this whole thing's going on? Who's running that state? Anybody know? Who's running that state? I don't know. But anyway, and Chris Christie, he's been in that state quite a bit, and both these guys are moderate Republicans, so-called moderate Republicans. Really, they are progressives. That is what they are. They're no different than Democrats. And by the way, John Kasich just said that he ought to be running as a Democrat because he's got so much support from Democrats. That's his words. So, by the way, just putting it out there, if you support John Kasich, you support someone that a lot of Democrats support. By the way, Harry Reid supports Trump. I got a clip here from last week. I wonder if I still... Yeah, oh, yeah, here. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip about Harry Reid talking about Donald Trump.
What do you say?
He said you're a good guy.
You're one of the Democrats he could do business.
Okay, so Donald Trump is is being quoted here from a reporter talking to Harry Reid. He's saying, Donald Trump said he can deal with you. You're a good guy, basically, talking to Harry Reid. You might confuse him with Piglet, so I just want to let you know it's not Piglet from Winnie the Pooh. This is actually Harry Reid. Here he goes.
Well, I remember the good old days when he did a fundraiser or two for me.
Any issues that you worked with?
What's that?
Have you worked with him on any particular issue?
Look, we've gotten along fine. That was before he was running for president. I'm with that bunch of people running, I'm kind of pulling for him.
Okay, so Harry Reid is pulling for Donald Trump, and Charles Schumer, he's back there, he says, oh my God, and you can see him smiling like, shut up, Harry, why are you doing that? We don't want them to know that we are actually in favor of Donald Trump. First of all, I don't think that they think he would win. Again, 70% of his own party, the Republican Party, is opposing him. Again, he is the second choice for everybody in the party, all right? So if you either love him or you hate him, and 70% of the party will not vote for him, his own party, let alone the other people on the other side. So Democrats aren't going to convert and suddenly start voting for Donald Trump because they like him better than Hillary. Well, maybe, but it's not the kind of rate. We don't want to choose between a Republican who's a progressive and a Democrat who's a progressive, or a Democrat who's a socialist. Again, it's not going to go in our favor. If you're a Democrat, you're not going to vote for a Republican, most likely. It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or not. You're probably just a party line guy voting down the line. So, and I've seen, I am subscribed to all these newsletters from these lefty organizations. I've seen all the stuff that they're talking about Donald Trump and how fearful they supposedly are that Donald Trump's going to get elected. Well, I am too. I don't want him elected either. I think things are going to he's not going to make America great. He's going to take more power. You imagine what a guy like Donald Trump is going to do with that kind of power? Anyway, let's go back to Harry Reid here. He's talking with Charles Schumer right behind him. And he's talking about how he's rooting for Donald Trump.
Senator, yes. You don't like that, Chuck? I was just trying to be funny with Donald Trump, and obviously it wasn't too funny. Schumer kicked me in the back of the leg.
And a few other places.
Yes, a few other places. A little higher than the leg, okay?
So Charles Schumer was like, shut up, quit. He's kicking him in the leg, shut up. Quit saying that you're rooting for him. We want him to get the primary. Honestly, I think Trump may be a plant. I know a lot of people have been saying this, but I think Trump may be a plant from the Democrat Party, maybe colluding with Hillary Clinton to, be a poison pill essentially for the party. Who knows? But I'll tell you this: if he does somehow miraculously get this primary, this spot in the primary, if he gets a nomination. I predict that the media is going to be turning the key. They're holding so much stuff back with Donald Trump. Right now they're just playing the stuff that he says. They're not really putting an opinion out. They're not slamming him hardcore. They're just playing the stuff that they're giving him enough rope to hang himself, but they're not trying to hang him themselves. As soon as he gets that nomination, it's going to be easy. I could do this show, an entire show slamming Donald Trump from all the things, and I couldn't even say a word. I could sit back and not say a word and just play a big montage for 3 hours of all the things Donald Trump has said, and you can hear it from his own words of how big of a douche this guy is. And this is going to be all you're going to see if he gets a nomination. So anyway, Trump has to do well in New Hampshire, as well. He's got to do this because he's a moderate as far as what he's claiming to be. A moderate, he can make deals. Again, he talks about being an outsider and how stupid the establishment is and all this and all that. But he's talking about making deals with the establishment. He can make deals. He can make deals with everybody. Again, he made deals with Harry Reid. He's also donated significant amounts to lots and lots and lots of Democrats. Don't forget, Donald Trump has also said that the economy runs better when it's being ran by a Democrat as opposed to a Republican. Yeah, right. It gets run right into the ground. That's where it gets run. Anyway, but Rubio, he's got to continue this too because he's got to do well in New Hampshire because he's got the establishment backing, and if Cruz does better than him, again, Rubio's supposed to be more of a moderate than Cruz. Cruz is supposed to be too conservative for New Hampshire. So in my opinion, if Cruz gets a 4th place, that's a victory for Cruz, because this is supposed to be a left-leaning state. This is supposed to be one of the worst states that he can be in, so much so that Cruz hasn't even really been in New Hampshire that often. He's pretty much written it off. But if Cruz comes in 4th or higher, that is a victory for Cruz, simply because he's not supposed to do well in this state. He's the most conservative candidate, and if he comes in 3rd, oh my goodness, that will say a lot. If he somehow beats Rubio, who's supposed to be further to the right and more moderate than Cruz, that's it for Rubio. That will be it for Rubio. If he loses New Hampshire, he's done. So much for what they call that, Rubio Mintum or something like that. Marco Mintum, that's what it was. Anyway. So we were just talking a second ago about let's see here. I had a clip here that I wanted to play, and now I can't seem to find it. Here, I'll go ahead and go. I know I watched it on YouTube, so I'm going to go ahead and go through my history, and I know it's going to be here. This is hilarious stuff. This is Donald Trump talking about protesters, and I'm not even going to do anything to preface this. I'm just going to play the clip, and you guys can hear it for yourself. Here it goes.
And to have a crowd like this on our final day, can you believe it? This is the day. This is the day we take our country back. Remember that. This is the day we take our country back. So I got a little notice, in case you see, the security guys. We have wonderful security guys. They said, Mr. Trump, there may be somebody with tomatoes in the audience. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise. I promise. There won't be so much because the courts agree with us, too. What's going on?
Okay, so that's his own words. He'll pay for your legal fees. He's actually saying that you should inflict violence upon another person, and he'll pay for your legal fees. Now, it was eloquently pointed out by Glenn Beck this week. I was listening to his radio program. This is, first of all, this is similar behavior, and I'm not making this correlation. This was Glenn Beck, but I just thought it was kind of important to note. But this is similar behavior to Hitler in Germany, Nazi Germany, when prior to actually taking over the government, he was using brown shirts, people, just regular people, to inflict violence upon people that he didn't like. So, and then once Hitler got into office, he used the government. He actually had the Gestapo. He had men in black leather, government agents and things like that, who replaced the brown shirts. And Hitler actually killed the brown shirts. When he was done, he said, "Oh yeah, these guys are jerks. Let me get rid of them. I'm sorry about those guys." And he killed his own enforcers. So, look, I'm not calling Donald Trump Hitler or anything. I'm just saying this is a tactic that is kind of concerning to me, because if he would tell people to inflict violence upon another person, all right, what do you think he's going to do when he has control of the reins of government? How do you think he's going to use that government? Do you think he's going to use a soft touch, or do you think he's going to be, a strong man, a Putin type? I think he's a Putin type, and I think that he will, if you get in his way, if you do not do as he commands, I think him as the president, Donald Trump as the president, would use overwhelming force to get his way, to make you comply, to coerce the people into doing what he wants. And again, just listen to this again.
Our country back. So I got a little notice, in case you see, the security guys. We have wonderful security guys. They said, Mr. Trump, there may be somebody with tomatoes in the audience. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
If I was a presidential candidate, if I was somebody else in this race right now, this would be my ad for it. Wouldn't even be, I wouldn't say anything about vote for me. I would just say this is Donald Trump, boom, and this is all they got to do. And in fact, there's some lovely montages on the internet, but point being, gang, the presidency, the office of the presidency, is supposed to be respected. It's supposed to be revered. And though, I don't think that we should give this position any undue reverence. I don't think that we should submit and say, oh, well, you ought to respect that position just because it's a position. No, but the person in the position should respect the position, and they should be a person of dignity and respect. And I'll just say, I don't think that Donald Trump is a presidential material. That's just me. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you disagree with me, you agree with me, you don't know, you have a cooking recipe you want to share, go ahead and give us a call. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that's 360-450-5625. If you're on the 405media.com, I just want to say thanks for tuning in. You can check out the second hour of the program at OnTheMoveShow.com. And anyway, we'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
All right, gang, we're back. Let's see here. If you're just joining us, we're just basically doing some analysis here on the primaries. And we're going to be moving here shortly into our next featured topic. I want to talk about why Ted Cruz did not play dirty tricks against Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, and why I believe that CNN should apologize. I'll play the clips. You guys can look at the evidence yourself and decide. But before we get to that, I want to do some more primary analysis. By the way, I'm a little out of breath. During the break, I had to get up and I got some water. I was running back and forth, so now I'm like a little out of breath, so I apologize. Anyway, so let's see here. Like I said, if Cruz comes into fourth in New Hampshire, I think that's going to be a victory on his side. Fourth or less. If he's third, second, first. I mean, obviously first, that's a victory. But he's supposed to do bad here. All right, he's supposed to do really bad in New Hampshire. So if he doesn't, that's going to say a lot. And these candidates like Chris Christie, Donald Trump, John Kasich, Rubio. Again, I don't think anyone else. Ben Carson, Ben Carson, he's already. I'm just looking at the polls, by the way. Let me look at these polls here. We got the most recent poll. This is ARG tracking. We've got, let's see, Trump, he's listed at 31%, Rubio 17%, Kasich 17%, Cruz at 9%, Bush at 9%, Christie at 5%, Fiorina 2%, Carson 1%. Again, these other candidates, I'm really only trying to talk about the top few here. So, but let's go through the Monmouth poll here. They got Donald Trump at 30%. Excuse me, Donald Trump 30%, Rubio at 13%. The last poll he was at 17%. So this is a difference here, pretty big difference. And how accurate are these polls? We don't really know. But Rubio's at 13%, Kasich, they got him at 14%, Cruz at 12%, Bush at 13%. Look, I got to ask, who is really, really excited to vote for Kasich or Bush? Anybody? Anybody, if you are, seriously, if you are excited to call for, or I'm sorry, if you're excited to vote for Kasich and Bush, and you're going to go, this will be a good test, okay? Because I know there's people listening right now. I can see you. You're there listening. I can see the analytics. By the way, I'm competing with the Super Bowl today. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys, for listening to the show. And again, you're choosing to get news and information. You're choosing to get an analysis on the election and what's going on in the world, as opposed to participating in the Super Bowl. So first of all, I really appreciate that, gang. But if you are a Kasich or Bush voter, I promise you I will not make fun of you. I promise you I will not make fun of you. And if you are willing to go vote for these guys, please call 360-450-5625. This would be a good test, okay? Because if you're willing to go to the polls, you'd be willing to call, right? You'd be willing to call into a show and just explain why you like your candidate. I won't even comment. I'll say thank you for your call, and that'll be it, all right? But this will let us know. Is there any Kasich and Bush people out there that are super jazzed about voting for these guys? Anybody? 360-450-5625. I'm not getting any calls yet. The MacPack phone lines are open. We'll see if anybody calls. 360-450-5625. Bush, Kasich, are they your guy? Why do you like them? Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about some things here with what's going on with the Republicans. First of all, here's some good analysis here. Jeb Bush, he's given a speech. Got to play this clip, gang. Here it is.
So here's my pledge to you. I will be a commander-in-chief that will have the back of the military. I won't trash talk. I won't be a divider-in-chief or an agitator-in-chief. I won't be out there blowharding, talking a big game without backing it up. I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Did you hear that? All right, so he gets done with his speech, and then he says, please clap. Like he's really needing people to clap for him, okay? I'll let you hear it again. Here we go.
Country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
That is the saddest thing I've ever seen. I mean, that is just pitiful. Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's see here. We got some more stuff. Let's go ahead and look at the Democrat side, okay? So Bernie Sanders and Hillary, they've been going head to head, and I'm blown away at his performance in Iowa. If you were watching, it was a virtual tie. It's unbelievable. It was like 49.6% Bernie, 49.8% Hillary, and O'Malley had like 0.5. He's since dropped out. He was not a serious contender. Again, if you're looking for a progressive, why would you go for a progressive you don't know? O'Malley, that's the reason why he just wasn't getting any traction. Hillary Clinton and her name brand. Again, this race, though, it's important to note that this race was supposed to be Hillary winning by a landslide. And that's they brought up a couple of shill candidates. These two candidates, Bernie Sanders and O'Malley, they were supposed to be just nobodies that Hillary was just going to tromp right over. And the point here, and we saw this in 2008 when she ran against Barack Obama, and he just came out of nowhere. The first, a first-term senator suddenly just comes out of nowhere and beats Hillary Clinton. And why? A lot of people think because he was the first black president. I would argue because she is lackluster as hell. This woman no one likes her. No one trusts her. She's crappy on the issues. She's not a very good orator. In fact, the more you see Hillary Clinton, the less you like her. So the point here is that Bernie winning, and I would call this a win, even though, she technically won. She got most of the votes, and there's even some dispute. There is some possible fraud that has happened, and I think that it's disputable. I've been looking at some of the stuff as far as how the delegates were counted and stuff. I don't know that there may be merit, and I wouldn't put it past the Clintons, and I don't even think Clinton supporters will put it past the Clintons of trying to rig the game. But the point is, she won Iowa. But she really lost in the process. Because Bernie should not have got... We're talking about Iowa. All right, we're not talking about New York City. We're not talking about California. We're not talking about a big liberal progressive playland that everybody knows to be progressive. All right, we're talking about Iowa, the land of corn. This is not, it's not like, it's, okay, there's a university there, and obviously universities with the young kids being indoctrinated and being spoon-fed propaganda, of course, they are going to be voting for Bernie. And I can tell you myself, being a college student, there are a crap load of Bernie fans in college because they want that free crap, yo. They want some free stuff. Get me some free stuff. They don't really feel the effects of Obamacare and things like that because they're still getting their insurance paid for by their parents. They don't actually have to go out into the market and try to find a job. Right now, the government has successfully kept them busy with student loans, allowing them to go to college, and now they're talking about free college because they want the youth to be delayed going into the job market so they don't realize how crappy it is when the government has this much of a grip around your throat. So They don't feel the pain of the free crap, but they love free crap. They want everybody to, and they're very, very generous with other people's money. So, yeah, they're very generous with other people's money. Not so much with theirs because they're college students and they don't have any money. In fact, they're, $200,000 in debt, but they're very generous with your money, someone else's money. They're very generous, very humanitarian with your money, but not their own because they don't have any. So anyway, I got some stuff here. We got some movement on Twitter. Lou, he says the 17th Amendment is a big part of this problem. Rubio is a great example. He says no progressives. You don't think that's some good propaganda with Reid, talking about how Reid was saying that he's backing Trump. Now I'm not sure, Lou, if you're talking about if Reid is trying to basically play that he supports Donald Trump, but I think just follow the money. If you follow the money, Donald Trump has, in fact, donated a large amount of money to the Harry Reid campaign and other Democrats, by the way. Lots and lots. And by the way, Hillary Clinton, for example, he's actually donated to his supposed biggest competition on the other side of the aisle, supposedly. So I don't know if you were saying that Harry Reid is trying to tank Donald Trump, but I would argue he's not. I think that was probably a Freudian slip there, and Schumer's back there kicking him, telling him to shut up and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe, but I doubt it because if you just look at the policies, he's a progressive. Donald Trump is a progressive. He is not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination, and all of his claims that he's supposedly had pivot moments. He doesn't even have. He doesn't give any information. Even let's go to the abortion issue. He talks about how he has an unnamed friend that he won't name that had an unnamed child that he won't name, and because this child, again, he's very pro-choice, so pro-choice that he wouldn't even want to ban partial birth abortion, where the baby is outside of the body somewhat, and then they cut the cord on the neck there and kill the baby before it's completely out. He wouldn't even support banning that. Okay. Very pro-choice, but then suddenly, because his unnamed friend had an unnamed kid, and the kid didn't turn out to be a jerk, it was an okay kid, apparently a good kid. Now he's pro-choice. I just don't believe that is pro-life. I don't believe that's a good pivot moment. I just don't trust him. Again, he's not pro-Constitution. You don't ever hear him talk about the Constitution. He's pro eminent domain. He's actually anti-gun too. He says he's pro-gun, but this is the guy who supported a assault weapon ban in New York. All right, he's pro-gun control. All right, and he's pro-lying to your face and pro-telling people to knock people out if they throw tomatoes at him. He's pro all sorts of things. And anyway, so he's definitely not pro-conservative though. So anywho, we got some more notifications on Twitter. Let me see here. We got Mark on Twitter says everyone's talking about Marco Minham while ignoring the Gil Mintum. It's real. He's talking about Governor Gilmore. I think he's former governor of Virginia, if I'm not not mistaken. I think this guy actually got 12 votes in Iowa. 12. So, I bet he what was his speech, his concession speech? Was it, thanks, Mom, thanks, Uncle Lou, thanks, Fred, thanks, my nephew and my niece. I appreciate. That's basically, is that what he said? And let's see, Mark on Twitter, he says, I can't watch Kasich without Kung Fu fighting playing in my head. And he said, by the way, I can listen to you and watch the Super Bowl at the same time. Good job multitasking. Let's see. Also, Mark goes on. He says, to defeat Hillary, just keep playing this over and over where she's sick and tired. Let's go ahead and play this clip, see what he's got for me.
I am sick and tired of people who say that if you debate and you disagree with this administration, somehow you're not patriotic, and we should stand up and say we are Americans and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration.
That was hard to listen to. Wow. I'm sorry. I should have warned you guys. Mark, that was like putting a bomb off on the air here. But yeah, that was like, bark, 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 bark. That's I love it when she starts raising her voice, though. She sounds very bird-like to me. But yeah, so again, that's a perfect clip. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. The idea that you can't dissent with an administration, this is her own words. The idea that you can't dissent with the Obama administration without being called unpatriotic or, as the left likes to do, call us racists and say that we're using keywords for racism, like, for example, when we called him a socialist or a Marxist. Oh, they said that we were being racist. But now, Bernie Sanders, he's openly running as a socialist. So, what? I guess it doesn't apply anymore. It's because he's white, right? It's because he's white. So, anyway, let's see here. We got, what else did I want to get to here? I got a lot of other stuff on the agenda. Okay, going through my links here. Okay, all right, so Bernie Sanders you guys are probably pretty familiar with his speeches. He's talking about he's going to go after the billionaires and the gajillionaires and the trillionaires and the multimillionaires and all sorts of other heirs out there. So here's Bernie talking about how he doesn't want any billionaires to affect politics. So we're going to go ahead and play this.
2 or 3 words. What would define your campaign?
Standing up to the billionaire class.
Billionaires, 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 billionaire, billionaire, billionaires, 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 billionaires.
I am not a billionaire.
Millionaires. 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 Millionaires.
Millionaires. Millionaires and billionaires at the same time.
Millionaires and billionaires.
Millionaires and billionaires. Millionaires and billionaires.
Millionaires and billionaires.
Millionaire and billionaire.
Millionaires and billionaires.
Billionaires and millionaires.
Billionaires. Billionaire.
Billionaires. Billionaire. Billionaires.
Billionaires.
Billionaire.
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 Billionaire. Billionaire. Billionaire. Billionaire. And billionaires. Just the billionaire class.
Billionaire class. Billionaire class. Billionaire class. Billionaire class. Billionaire class.
Billionaire class. The billionaire class.
The billionaire class.
Billionaire class.
Millions of people who will tell the billionaire class.
All right, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, gang. That was 52 seconds of montage out of 1 minute and 39 seconds. There's still a lot more of him talking about billionaires. Billionaires, 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 billionaires. All I see is billionaires. I can't swing a stick without seeing a billionaire. You know what? I'm even going to go after pavillionaires. And that's those people who've got more than one pavilion. I mean, really, who needs more than one pavilion for a barbecue? Anyway, let's see. We got a lot more stuff here on this. Bernie Sanders. Oh, here's something interesting. You see how often he's talking about billionaires. He's always talking about how he's going to go after the billionaires. He doesn't think billionaires should be involved in politics. But Bernie got busted. He's getting backing from a billionaire. Here's the clip.
This is Roger Simon for PJ TV, PJ Media, here at the Bernie bus, where we're covering the new Bernie event here at Grandview University in Des Moines with lots of folks who feel the burn. Feel the burn!
Okay, so first, they're asking these supporters out here who are supporters of Bernie Sanders. They're asking him about his policies, basically, on billionaires and whatnot. And then they ask him, did you know that he's receiving money from billionaires? So here's a clip.
Now I noticed on the Bernie literature for this event that it's opposing billionaires in American politics. How do you feel about that?
I I think it's about time someone stood up to the billionaires, and I think that it's time they start paying their fair share of taxes so we can get free public college and everything Bernie's standing for.
I'm gonna give you that free crap!
The government has helped the billionaires for time and time over again. For the past years, we bailed out the banks, we did all of this, and now it's their time to help out the middle class, which they've destroyed.
All right, let me just point out here that the bailout on the banks, yes, that should not have happened. I agree. However, that's an Obama policy. That's a big government policy to not let people face the consequences for their action. Big business, all right? If you make a mistake, then you should pay the consequences. However, should also be noted that the federal government mandated that these people, these banks, start getting involved in risky loans. They started actually prosecuting banks that would not make loans to people that probably shouldn't be given loans. They actually were prosecuted for it. So, again, this is a government problem. Everything along this line, all of these steps, the government forced the problem by creating an environment where banks had to get involved in risky loans. And then when the loans weren't paid back and this bubble popped, suddenly the government steps in, and again, they created the problem. Now they step in to solve the problem by bailing out these banks, all right? Anyway, the video goes on.
Don't like billionaires. No, we're coming for him.
Definitely. I mean, it's his whole stance is how he wants to get money out of politics and prevent the billionaire class from having all the power and influence in politics that they currently have.
Big money in politics distorts what legislators do.
We're going to talk about in a second money in politics and why I don't think it's actually a bad thing.
Dump Trump the chump.
And this event is sponsored by MoveOn.org?
Yes.
Are you members?
No, I'm not a member. I've recently just heard.
Yeah, I'm a member too.
We're members.
I'm sure we've used MoveOn.org. We appreciate that he... Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure we are.
I did sign up for them, yes.
So they're backing this event?
Yes, they are backing this. They're putting their resources towards Bernie.
How about MoveOn.org?
And just so you know, I can verify as well. I am signed up. Again, I subscribe to these lefty little mailing lists and things like that. I'm a MoveOn.org subscriber to their mailing list, and they send me crap loads of Bernie propaganda. Lots and lots of Bernie propaganda, and they are all backing Bernie Sanders. So they have mobilized MoveOn.org to support the socialist here. And anyway, here's some more information on the video.
I love MoveOn.org. They keep me moving on.
I believe Bernie will win. I believe Bernie will win. I believe Bernie will win. I believe Bernie will win.
You guys know that MoveOn.org is supported by 3 billionaires. That's how it exists.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Did you know it?
No, I didn't know that.
I guess I'm glad they're doing a good thing despite being billionaires.
But you didn't know it?
No, I didn't know.
Which 3 billionaires?
George Soros, who is probably...
George Soros is filthy freaking rich. Again, this is the guy who I've been telling you, he actually designs economic collapses. This is what he does. He actually tries to make government, he bets against governments to collapse and actually does things to try to make them collapse. He's also the guy, George Soros, is a guy who has tons of armed guards, but he wants to come after your right to keep and bear arms. He's funding these organizations that are anti-gun extremists like Moms Demand Action, which we got a clip from Dan Sandini I want to play here in a moment, but we'll get back to that in a second. Here's a clip from the Bernie Sanders supporters.
We're worth 5 times what Trump is.
Okay.
You didn't know that? So George
Soros is worth 5 times what Donald Trump is.
Is 5 times as rich, according to Forbes, than Donald Trump.
No.
Yes, it is.
Well, you got egg on my face.
What do you think of that?
Well, if they're supporting Bernie, and they're supporting this rally, then they must feel that there's a change that is needed.
So as long as they're supporting my guy, I'm okay with them being billionaires and cajillionaires and pavillionaires. I'm okay as long as they're supporting my guy. But the other billionaires, no, those guys are just douches, and we should take their money.
That doesn't bother you, or it does bother you?
Not particularly, because I've always seen MoveOn as a pretty disruptive group.
This is a gotcha interview, isn't it?
You can always count.
Yes, this was a gotcha interview. Anyway, so I just think it's funny that Bernie, he's a little bit hypocritical. I'm just saying. If you're really against money in politics, how about you stop taking money from billionaires? All right, you're all about going after the billionaires and the gajillionaires and the pavillionaires. Stop taking their money then, huh, Bern? How about that? All righty. Well, let's see here. We got more on that. I was just kind of curious what, Bernie was saying that he's not worth $1 million. She said, I'm not a millionaire, so I can come after your stuff. But I like giving free crap away. Here's Bernie Sanders. He's got an estimated net worth of approximately $528,000. Estimated. Since he hasn't released his records, we don't really know. We can't really tell you how much this anti-billionaire guy is worth, but roughly $500,000 at the low end. Actually, at the low end, let's see here. They have the estimation. At the low end, he's probably worth $222,000. At the high end, $769,000, possibly. At the high end, and for an average of $528,000. So again, it's not like he's a broke guy. You know what I mean? He's not like an average person. What's your estimated net worth? Mine is probably, I don't know, man, maybe a couple of thousand. Like I don't have much. I'm not a rich guy. I think I'm sitting in the most valuable room of my house. It's got a computer and 2 monitors and a mixer and a microphone. This is like my life savings I'm sitting here with. So yeah, this is again. He's if anybody's out of touch, it's these evil thousandaires. These people who've got all this money and they who needs 2 pavilions for a barbecue? Anyway, so yeah, he's not exactly broke, gang. Not exactly broke. But what's the big deal with money in politics? We're going to get to that in a second here. Before we do, I want to actually talk about the controversy with Ted Cruz and Ben Carson. So, first of all, after Iowa, Ben Carson, actually this is during Iowa, Ben Carson announced that he was going to be leaving Iowa. When he left, he wasn't going to go straight to New Hampshire. All right, as all the other candidates were doing, they were going right from Iowa to New Hampshire. Some of them were going to be giving speeches at 6 a.m. the next morning, so they weren't going to be able to have any sleep. And it was going to be nonstop campaigning because they knew New Hampshire was so freaking important. But Ben Carson, he decides he's going to go home, and his reason for going home is he wants to get some fresh clothes. Need some fresh clothes. Can't do dry cleaning. Can't go buy new clothes. He's a freaking doctor, by the way. Doctor, he's probably a millionaire. Look, Bernie, calm down. Calm down. No, but really, he probably is. Look, bottom line, he could probably get his own clothes. He could probably just go to a store, a Men's Warehouse, and go buy some clothes. It's probably not that big of a deal. And for me, I made a post right after I heard about this. I said, I just don't think that Carson is serious about winning. He took time off for his book, and now, as the other candidates are en route to New Hampshire, Carson heads to Florida. That's where he's going home, and he's going there to get clothes. He needs to clear the field if he isn't going to take it seriously. What do you think? Am I being too hard on the good doctor? I'd like to hear from you guys, by the way. 360-450-5625. By the way, I didn't hear any Kasich or Bush supporters calling in. So one more time, 360-450-5625. I know you guys are out there. Again, I see you on the analytics here. I can see you. And point being here is that, first of all, I didn't even think that this would have been something to do with him announcing being out of the race. But, greater minds, they saw into it a little bit further than me, or some other people read into things that I didn't. I just looked at this as being a weird decision, him not being serious about it. And I think that Carson, in a lot of ways, isn't really serious about it. He's the one who said he did not want to really be president. He hadn't thought about it, and then he had all these people telling him to run. That was why he got into this race. And I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I respect that a whole hell of a lot out of Carson. I respect that. And I respect he's a man of faith, and I think he's a man of his word. And my main issue with Carson is that he wants a no-fly zone in Syria, and I don't trust our government to be involved in Syria because I know what they're doing. I know that they're trying to set us up to get in a conflict with Russia, and it's very, very dangerous. I don't think that they're serious about going after ISIS. How could they be when they created, funded, armed, and trained ISIS? Again, they're trying to topple Assad to get that pipeline that we've talked about, the oil pipeline that Assad said no to. So they're trying to clear the field for them, trying to get that oil pipeline going up into Turkey, through Turkey, through Syria, then through Turkey, up into Europe. It's all about that petrodollar, gang. We're going to get to that in a minute, that'll be in the third hour, I think. And but again, when it comes to Carson, people read into this a little further, and the reason why I diverted there, I just want to remind everybody, is because I was talking about Carson's foreign policy. I like everything else about him, with the exception of Syria, his Syria policy. But other people read into him deciding to go home to Florida, and the reason, what a lot of people decided is that because he was going to be at a prayer breakfast, which means some kind of speech is going to be had, they thought he was maybe going to make an announcement, and that announcement would be him going home dropping out of the campaign, basically. Dropping out of the race. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I'm reading things here at the same time. Can't read and talk at the same time. So Ben Carson is saying that Ted Cruz used dirty tricks and sabotaged his campaign. That's what he said. He said that the Cruz campaign used dirty tricks and essentially stole some of the votes. First of all, I've yet to see any evidence that anybody was manipulated or tricked by Ted Cruz, or that was a Carson voter that was going to caucus for Carson but decided to go to Cruz. I don't remember anywhere, and I've been looking, I've been Googling. I can't find any people coming forward. Would you not think that people would come forward and a news agency would take that? And again, we already know that the news does not like Cruz. News don't like Cruz. Hashtag that. But look, if there was somebody out there, I think that they would be there. That we would have evidence of somebody coming forward that they were tricked, they were manipulated from avoiding going with Carson. So first of all, O'Reilly covered this. And I want to give you guys his take, all right? This is O'Reilly on his report, and I think he did a really good job.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Hurting Ben Carson's campaign, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. This is a pretty nasty story that has damaged the Carson campaign and perhaps the image of Senator Ted Cruz. As we reported yesterday, while the caucus voting was underway in Iowa, a CNN reporter, Chris Moody, tweeted misleading information about the Carson campaign. Almost immediately, the Cruz campaign used that information to tell Iowa voters that Carson may be withdrawing from the race. Dr. Carson believes that hurt his vote.
So let me just point out here, all right? If you as a candidate, if you think that one of your opposition candidates is actually going to be dropping out of the race, you have to jump in there and try to convince their voters to vote for you. Again, we saw Donald Trump unabashedly do that. He said, we already knew that Mike Huckabee was dropping out of the race. He already announced on Twitter. And then Donald Trump comes in and says, oh, yeah, I've been a really good friend. I was really close to Mike Huckabee. He's trying to basically snipe those Mike Huckabee voters and get them to vote for him. So Ted Cruz, obviously any politician in this situation, if somebody's dropping out, they want to get your votes. So if they think that there's some information going out there that Carson is dropping out, people are going to jump on that immediately. And that's what Ted Cruz did. So O'Reilly continues.
Ted Cruz has apologized. CNN says it did nothing wrong. Here are the facts. At 6:43 Central Time, Mr. Moody tweeted, quote, Carson won't go to New Hampshire, South Carolina, but instead will head home to Florida for some R&R. He'll be in D.C. Thursday for the National Prayer Breakfast.
Chris Moody is a CNN correspondent. So this is one whole tweet right here that he tweeted.
Moody tweeted some other stuff after that trying to clarify, but apparently that did not get to CNN political reporter Dana Bash.
Okay, so Dana Bash is reporting on what happened, and she's basically she's reading into what could be going on with the Carson campaign. Here it goes.
We should say that our Chris Moody is breaking this news that Ben Carson is going to go back to Florida, to his home, regardless of how he does tonight here in Iowa. He's going to go there for several days, and then afterwards, he's not going to go to South Carolina. He's not going to go to New Hampshire.
That is false. Ben Carson had events planned in New Hampshire even before he left Iowa. Again, that CNN report, flat out untrue.
So let me ask you, you're Ted Cruz. You want to win in Iowa. You hear from CNN that, first of all, Carson is not going to New Hampshire immediately following Iowa. He's going to Florida. And his excuse, not put there, but his excuse is that he's going to get some fresh clothes. Again, a doctor who's probably a millionaire. Don't forget that. He's probably a millionaire. Shut up, Bernie. Sit down, relax, calm down. Look, anyway, so he's going to get some fresh clothes in Florida, and then you hear that he's not going to go, according to CNN, he's not going to go to New Hampshire afterwards, but instead he's going to a national prayer breakfast meeting, which is a place where he may announce something, because that's what people do at those things. They typically announce things, or they give speeches, and if you were going to announce that you're going to be getting out of the race, then that would be a good place for it. So if you're Ted Cruz, would you not jump on that? And again, it's not even Ted Cruz, FYI, though he's responsible because it's his acolytes, his people in his campaign, all right? I believe it was even state level people that were doing that as well. It wasn't even his national level campaign guys. But regardless, one man is ultimately responsible. The buck stops with Ted Cruz. So his people jump on that and say, hey, this guy Carson, you're a Carson caucus goer. He may be, if you're a Carson caucus goer, he may be dropping out of the race. Maybe you should not waste your caucus vote, and you should vote for Ted Cruz. Maybe. There's no evidence to prove that anyone was actually swayed by that. Let me ask you, if you went to a caucus and your opposition, somebody from the opposition candidate was like, hey, your guy's going to be dropping out of the race, you should vote for my guy, would that really make you change your mind? Would you just take their word for it, or would you look into it a little further? Would you see if Carson said that he was going to be dropping out, or if they're reading into that a little bit? I don't think it would sway me. I don't know how impressionable you are to other people, but it wouldn't really sway me. All right, but I don't know. So, only you can decide that. But anyway, O'Reilly continues.
Enter the Cruz campaign, which at about 7 p.m. Central Time, 17 minutes after the initial misleading tweet, said this, quote, CNN is reporting that Ben Carson will stop campaigning after Iowa. Make sure to tell all of your peers at the caucus supporting Carson that they should coalesce around the true conservative who will be in the race for the long haul, Ted Cruz. So you can see that the Cruz campaign used a false report by CNN to damage the Carson campaign.
And who's responsible for that? That should be CNN. But CNN has refused to apologize. They have refused to apologize for giving a false report. All right, their information was wrong, and they will not apologize for it. And in fact, they're blaming Ted Cruz, and now there's like hashtag Cruz fraud and all this stuff. Look, if I report on something, that's why I give you guys my sources, all right? And that's exactly what Ted Cruz did. He said, CNN is reporting this. He's not saying that he's saying that. He's not just saying, oh, look, Carson's doing that because I say so. He's saying CNN reported this. So you can go check it out on yourself. You can decide. When I read you a news story, I try my best to give you a source, unless I'm remembering it from memory, in which case I always say, don't trust me. Go check it out yourself. Find out the information on your own. Don't take my word for it. And please don't. But let's just go ahead and play a clip here from CNN trying to defend their network, all right, and trying to rip into Ted Cruz. Here's a clip. This is a Mediaite clip.
Just so we're all crystal clear here, when Senator Cruz, with all due respect, tries to throw my network and CNN under the bus, let me stand up for my colleagues and my journalists here in terms of this CNN report that he keeps quoting that he believes was, what we never said with regard to Dr. Carson's campaign and going to Florida. Let me be precise in case this is seen again. We reported it accurately, and here are the facts. Dr. Carson's staff told us that he would return home to Florida to, quote-unquote, take a breath from the campaign before resuming his activities on the campaign trail. That accurate report was disseminated on television and CNN Digital, and that was that.
Okay. let's play that again. Let's just double check what exactly they're saying that they reported here, because this is what they're claiming that they reported, and we'll go back and we'll play the clip and just double check that.
Reported it accurately, and here are the facts. Dr. Carson's staff told us that he would return home to Florida to, quote unquote, take a breath from the campaign before resuming his activities on the campaign trail. That accurate report was disseminated on television and CNN Digital, and that was that.
Okay, so they're saying that they're claiming that they said that and reported on that report that he would take a breath before resuming his campaign. He was going to take a break and get a breath here before resuming. So did they actually report that? Let's go back to the report here from CNN.
Dana in Des Moines. Jake?
Thanks, Wolf. Well, CNN has learned some news about the man who, at least according to polls, is in fourth place here in Iowa. Now, Dana, a week from tomorrow, we're all going to be doing this again for the New Hampshire primary, so almost every single candidate is going to be going directly from here to New Hampshire to campaign, except for the man in fourth place, who a few months ago was in first place here, Dr. Ben Carson. What have we learned?
That's right. We should say that our Chris Moody is breaking this news.
Okay. Just remember, take a breath before resuming his campaign. That's what they're claiming that they reported. Here it goes.
That Ben Carson is going to go back to Florida, to his home, regardless of how he does tonight here in Iowa. He's going to go there for several days, and then afterwards, he's not going to go to South Carolina. He's not going to go to New Hampshire. He's going to come to Washington, D.C., and he's going to do that because the National Prayer Breakfast is on Thursday, and people who have been following Ben Carson's career know that that's really where he got himself on the political map, attending that prayer breakfast and really giving it to President Obama at the...
Okay. So I still have yet to hear take a breath before resuming. I haven't heard that at all. We're 1 minute into this clip, 1 minute and 4 seconds into the clip. Again, they said that they reported that he was going to take a breath before resuming. And now they're speculating, okay, this is where he got famous at this prayer breakfast. This would be a great place for him to announce him to, be suspending his campaign. And they also specifically said that he will not be going to South Carolina. He will not be going to New Hampshire. They said that he will not. Not that he'll go later, that he will not. Where does it take a breath before resuming? So now let's continue this clip, because I'm pretty sure I haven't listened to the last half of this clip in a few days, but I'm pretty sure that they talk about and they start speculating how unusual this is. So let me continue, and I'll let you guys decide. I want to make sure I'm not just sniping the information here, and you guys can hear the whole report. All right, so I'm actually going to backtrack, so I'm not skipping over some stuff. I'm going to play just a couple of seconds of stuff that we've already heard, so I'm not trying to game the system here, so you think I'm cutting information out or whatever. Here we go.
He got himself on the political map, attending that prayer breakfast and really giving it to President Obama at the time, and he became kind of a hero among conservatives, among evangelicals especially.
But it's very unusual.
Very unusual.
To be announcing that you're going home to rest for a few days, not going on to the next site. Plus, he's already announced that he's going to be coming out and speaking at 9:15 local.
Okay, so what he said, it's very unusual for him to announce that he's going home to rest for a few days. So we do have rest. They said take a breath before resuming. I don't hear anything about take a breath before resuming. That was not reported. She said she was going to be precise. That's not what they said. That's actually unprecise. It's imprecise. She didn't actually. Neither of these pundits have said that at all, actually. But he did say he was going to take a rest. That's what this guy is saying. This reporter, I don't know who this guy is, but this reporter on Communist News Network is saying he's going to take a rest and not go. So let me go back. Let me just double check I heard that.
To the next site. Plus, he's already announced that he's going to be coming out and speaking at 9:15 local, 10:15.
Oh, that's too far.
That you're going home to rest for a few days, not going on to the next site. Plus,
okay, so he's reporting that Ben Carson is not going on to the next site, which is New Hampshire. So this is what CNN is reporting, that he's not going to New Hampshire. That implies that he's not ever going, like he's not campaigning anymore. He's stopping. All right, and you can see why Cruz and his campaign people would think, oh, wow, he's dropping out. But now they continue speculating. Again, it's unusual.
Plus, he's already announced that he's going to be coming out and speaking at 9:15 local, 10:15 Eastern, no matter whether or not we know the results, because he wants to get home and get ahead of the storm.
Look, if you want to be president of the United States, you don't go home to Florida. I mean, that's just bottom line. That's the end of the story. If you want to signal to your supporters that you want it, that you're hungry for it, that you want them to get out campaign, you got to be out there doing it too, and he's not doing it. It's very unusual.
Very unusual news that CNN has just learned. CNN's Chris Moody breaking the story. Wolf, back to you in Washington.
Barry?
Okay, so CNN, you owe a freaking apology, not just to Ted Cruz, who you're lying and slandering crap about, trying to push the blame off to Ted Cruz because he reported your false report. CNN lied. CNN is lying about what they're saying here. They did not say, I'm looking at what I wrote down, take a breath before resuming. They never said that. First of all, they lied in that report where they're calling BS, and their first report was inaccurate. So they're misreporting what they reported, and their first report was false, inaccurate. So first of all, CNN owes an apology to Ben Carson, but I think more so they owe an apology to Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz simply reported the information that CNN reported. Okay, so I think that's squashed. I think that's settled. If you guys have any questions, if you think I'm wrong, you think I'm not looking at the whole picture here, please give me a call. The number of the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that number is 360-450-5625. Again, we still have no Kasich or Bush callers. None of you out there. No one supports Kasich or Bush, apparently. We still got an hour and 15 minutes left in the show, so we'll see if you guys are willing to call in and stand up for your guy if you exist at all. All right, so let's go to Bernie Sanders. Let's go back to the left side of the aisle here. Bernie Sanders and Hillary, they're arguing about Goldman Sachs. I got a clip from this. This is in a video posted on an article on thedailycaller.com. The article was titled, Bernie Sanders Hits Hillary on Goldman Sachs Speaking Fees. Here's a clip.
Economy. Senator Sanders, you released a tough new ad last week in which, without mentioning Secretary Clinton by name, you talk about two Democratic visions for regulating Wall Street. Quote, one says it's okay to take millions from big banks and tell them what to do. My plan, break up the big banks, close the tax loopholes, and make them pay their fair share. What do you see as the difference between what you would do about the banks and what Secretary Clinton would do?
The first difference is I don't take money from big banks. I don't get personal speaking fees from Goldman Sachs. What I would do is understand that when you have 3 out of the 4 largest banks today bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail, when you have the 6 largest financial institutions having assets of 60% of the GDP of America, it is very clear to me what you have to do. You got to bring back a 21st century Glass-Steagall legislation, and you got to break up these huge financial institutions. They have too much economic power, and they have too much financial power over our entire economy. If Teddy Roosevelt were alive today, the old Republican trustbuster, what he would say is, these guys are too powerful, break them up. I believe that's what the American people want to see.
Okay, so Bernie, he's hitting Hillary here for her speaking fees. She has received a lot of money, and in fact, he said he's got a big problem with people receiving, that many I think it was $200,000 for in an hour or something like that. Let me see. I probably won't be able to find this one on YouTube this quick, but let me see if I can just find it here. Bernie Sanders has a problem with making $200,000. Let's. I'll be blown away if this is in here. No, I can't find that one. But I did hear the clip. I know it exists. I'll try to Google. We'll do this stuff live on the fly. That's what I'm all about here. Bernie Sanders has problem with making $200K in an hour. Let's see. On issues of wealth inequality. Yeah, I can't. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here we go. We may have something. This is realclearpolitics.com. Boom, here we go.
I had an ongoing conversation this morning with Howard Dean. Somebody brought up the fact that a lot
lot of college students might have resented the fact that Hillary Clinton got paid so much money for giving paid speeches at colleges when they're fighting to pay back their loans. I don't want to ask you specifically. She made close to $1 million, or perhaps over $1 million. From speaking fees at colleges. Do you think it's wrong for her to go to places like UConn and also the University of Buffalo, a college she once represented, get paid $275,000 for a 45-minute
Joe,
speech?
I got a real problem with people, receiving, for an hour's work to earn $200,000 plus. I've got a real problem with that.
That blows me away. It just blows me away. This guy hates people making money. I have absolutely no problem. In fact, I want everyone to be able to one day make $200,000 for an hour's work. I would love that. If you can somehow figure out a way to rise up, through a little bit of luck and lots of hard work, make $200,000 in an hour. But Bernie Sanders, no, he doesn't. He doesn't want, this is supposed to be the guy who's for minimum wage. He wants you to make a minimum amount, but he doesn't feel comfortable with you making more than that. Again, this is what it's about. These socialists, all right? And that's what the left is turning into. The left is running further to the left, gang, all right? Bernie won in Iowa. He's going to destroy in New Hampshire. Destroy Hillary in New Hampshire. He's gaining momentum. People are really starting to consider, first of all, they don't like Hillary. Nobody is jazzed about voting for Hillary. Nobody's pumped about voting for Hillary. But a lot of people are really excited about voting for Bernie. A lot of young, dumb people are really excited about voting for Bernie. And again, they have this envy for other people's things. All right? They are jealous. It's jealousy. They don't like when somebody else succeeds. And this whole socialist situation, it's all set up to create, again, they want to feel good. A lot of the do-gooders, they want to feel good about doing something, but they don't want to do anything. They want the feeling of feeling good, but they don't want to do all that hard work. That's all the hard work associated with that good feeling. That's too much to do. So they don't want to do charity. Instead, what they want to do is they want to steal your labor and give the byproducts to other people. And therefore they can feel good about themselves because they made sure they took care of the needy. Again, they're too weak to come after you themselves and steal this. So what they do is they use a coercive force of the government to do that, and then they get to feel good. But their policies don't actually help anyone. In fact, it only worsens the problem. People in poverty are only insured to stay in poverty because they become dependent on these systems and they realize, oh, crap, you know what? It actually costs me money to get off of welfare. If I'm to take this job, I'll actually make less money than if I just stay on the government teat. Or if I take this job, it may actually affect my income. Or if I take this promotion, it may affect my income. If I take this pay raise, it may affect my income to the point where I actually make less money on welfare because now I'm making more money on my own. So now overall, I'm making less money because the government's giving me less money because now I qualify for less money. So it ensures that these people stay in poverty. And it also makes sure that no one can ever get out of the middle class. And as Bernie says, he's got a real problem with you guys making lots of money. He doesn't want you making lots of money per hour. No. You made $200,000 an hour. Oh, I got a real problem with that. Pretty soon, you keep that up, you might be a pavillionaire. You might own more than one pavilion. Who needs that many pavilions for a barbecue? All I'm saying is I want you all to be filthy, stinking rich. I want you all to have that opportunity. Now, all of you may not make that point. I may never make that point, but I want the option to be there for you. If you're willing to put in the hard work, you have a little bit of luck, I want you to be able to be a gajillionaire. I want you to be so freaking rich that you could be like Scrooge McDuck and have like a vault of money and you're just swimming in all your gold coins and, you wipe your butt with $100 bills. I want that for you. All right? Bernie Sanders doesn't want that for you. He wants to make sure that you're A, dependent on the system and you'll never get yourself out of poverty, or B, you're in the middle class, and you can never make your way past being middle class, probably lower middle class, because all of your wealth that you're making is being taxed and given it to other people. No matter how hard you work, they just tax you more and more. And obviously that will kill your incentive to work. So maybe you'll probably just jump in the cart that everyone else is pulling as well, that you were just pulling, because they've killed your incentive to work. You know you'll never be able to better your lot. That's Bernie Sanders' policies. I just think that, we'd be better off if the government got the hell out of our business. And people stop trying to steal our money. Stop. Again, be generous with your own wealth. Donate to charity. Don't steal other people's money and say that you're generous. That's called theft. That's not charity. That's not generous. All right? That's theft. It's redistribution of wealth, state-sanctioned theft. That's all it is. So Bernie's got a real problem with that, though. So let's see. We got. Let's talk for a minute. We got about 6 minutes until the break here, until we're moving into the overdrive hour. So let's talk for a minute here about money in politics. This is Bernie Sanders' big problem. He's got a big issue with money in politics, with all these billionaires. And look, I get that on the face value here. On the face, it seems like, oh yeah, it's not fair that billionaires are able to donate to a political campaign, and essentially what that means is that they're going to get special favors from that guy if he ever gets in office, or if he's already in office, and he's more likely to retain his position because, first of all, he's a known quantity. A lot of people know who that guy is. Like, for example, Harry Reid. He's going to be hard to unseat because he's been there since dinosaurs roamed the earth. But everybody knows who Harry Reid is, and if you're a Democrat, you know the name. That's your guy, Harry Reid, even though he's done nothing to help you whatsoever. In fact, he's a crony. He has crony corporatist deals with people like Donald Trump, by the way. So, again, these billionaires, all right, they're giving money, and it would seem at the face, yeah, that's not right. They shouldn't be getting special favors. They shouldn't be able to buy influence or buy access to these politicians. But really what the problem is, it's not the money. Because to be clear, spending your money, it's your property, it's a freedom of expression. To limit that, there's no way that you can limit people spending their money without infringing upon their rights. There's no way. You tell me how you can figure out a way to make sure people can't donate to a political cause of their choice without limiting their speech, because that's what it is. It's a freedom of speech. It's freedom of expression. You're trying to promote ideals that you believe in. You have a right to do that. It's your private property. You have a right to do that. Just like I have a right to talk on this microphone right now. You have a right to hand out flyers on the street to people. You have a right to spend your money on those kind of resources. That's your right. How can you regulate this without infringing upon the right? And let's just be clear. How are you going to prevent people from still bribing politicians for these favors, even if you made it illegal? We already have seen what the Hillary Clinton Foundation has done. This is a charity that is set up to be a shill. It's a slush fund for the Clintons' lifestyle. What they do is they donate 100% of their income to this slush fund, and then they live off of the slush fund. This is not a charity. Yeah, they do a little bit for a little bit of people, but mostly this is paying for their extravagant lifestyles, their private jets, and all of this crazy stuff. It's not doing this, making money in politics illegal, is not going to stop billionaires from being able to buy access with politicians, either through loopholes that are created like the Hillary Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Foundation crap, or doing it under the table, sneakily. They'll find other loopholes, or they'll just do it outright, just stuff money in somebody's pocket, grease somebody's palm that way. The real problem here is not the money. It's the fact that there's power that is there that can influence policy. That's the real problem. Has nothing to do with the money. That's the problem. It's the power. As long as somebody has a power to provide a special favor to somebody, there will be somebody bribing that somebody. Whether overtly or covertly, there will be someone trying to buy access. The issue is the power. We've been diverted from this issue, and again, the left, they like to obfuscate and distract us and tell us, oh, it's about the billionaires. Look, billionaires are going to do what they're going to do. It doesn't matter if you make it illegal or not because, again, they are billionaires. They can do what they want with their money, first of all, and it's going to be hard to track it. It's going to be hard to stop it. The only way that you can do that is to really clamp down on speech. I think that would be a loss for liberty. The issue here, we should make it so the government is not capable, does not have the power to give special favors, preferential treatment, pick winners and losers. We should remove the government's ability to do that because, first of all, that power was never constitutionally granted to them. So why are they doing it? I think it's time we clean house and go for small government answers instead of more government. The answer to what Bernie Sanders wants to do is limit political campaign donations and things along those lines. And that's, again, you're finding government to come fix a problem that is a government problem. The government created the problem by selling the access to the powers that they shouldn't have in the first place. And we're going to respond by giving them more power? It doesn't make any sense. But that's what socialists do. And again, a byproduct of socialism is crony capitalism, corporatism. The collusion of big government and big business. That is a byproduct. I don't think we need more of it. Anyway, we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be in our third hour of the program. I sure do appreciate you all sticking with us. And we'll be right back after this message. You do not want to go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore. With the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello, gang. We're in the Overdrive Hour. This is our extra hour that we have of the program here, hour number 3 of the program. Sometimes we do this, sometimes we don't, but mostly we do this because I usually have a stack of articles that I'm dying to get to you guys, and you know, sometimes I think a week is just far too long to go without talking to you guys. I miss you. I miss you so much. So I just want to mention some things here, specifically regarding candidates. Okay, and let's look at a Cruz-Trump comparison. Okay, now I'm not going to get so far into it. I just kind of want to talk about generalities here. Okay, general things. There are things about Cruz that I don't find perfect. Okay, I like him. Out of the candidates that I have to choose from, he is my favorite candidate. He appears to be a small government constitutionalist who likes free markets. Okay, there's some things I don't like about him, like one thing in particular, and I don't know if this is true or not. I told you guys earlier in the show, I'm in the process of figuring out if he is in fact eligible to be the president of the United States based upon the natural-born citizen interpretation. Now, I would also just point out that I also know that our founders were concerned about somebody surreptitiously coming in that had some kind of foreign attachment and becoming the president. And as far as intent, I don't think that the natural-born citizen clause would apply to Ted Cruz as far as denying him the presidency based upon founder intent. All right, but as far as definition of natural-born citizen, I've yet to really walk through all this this muddy water here and find out whether or not he does or does not qualify. I would argue that he should, but we're not talking about how I believe the Constitution ought to be written. We're talking about how it currently is written and some of the president's precedent set on that. Okay, so. Again, I don't know if that's true, and I will let you guys know. But there are some other things that I don't like about him. Like, for example, one of the things Ted Cruz was talking about, carpet bombing. All right, he wanted to carpet bomb ISIS and talk about nuking and seeing if sand glows in the dark and things along those lines. Now, I happen to believe, and you may not, and that's cool if you don't. If you don't like this, this kind of hard talk, and you think that, oh my God, he's a warmonger. Oh, he's a neocon. All right. I can see your viewpoint. I can understand where you're coming from. I'm not particularly fond of this kind of tough talk. However, I don't think that, first of all, Ted Cruz is a military guy, and I don't think he knows what carpet bombing really means. To Ted Cruz, he may think carpet bombing is just bombing, and it just sounds tougher. We're talking about a tough, competitive race. I tend to believe this is just rhetoric, and Ted Cruz has kind of clarified that he would be, strategic and try to actually pinpoint, some of these bombs. He's not, but he said he wasn't going to apologize for being tough on ISIS. So I think this is I'll chalk that up to rhetoric. That's one of the things I don't like about him. But again, we're talking about an extremely competitive race here, and he's trying to seem tough on ISIS. And I get it. I understand why he says that, and I also know that it's also internationally illegal for them to just carpet bomb whole cities and nuke Syria just because there's a few terrorists there. Again, I think that we should not be in Syria. And in fact, Ted Cruz says that we should not set up a no-fly zone. He's the only presidential candidate in the race right now that is for not staying out of Syria, not establishing a no-fly zone. He's the only one. Donald Trump said he's not really sure. He's undecided. But let's be real. Donald Trump thinks he's a strong man. I do not believe that Donald Trump will keep us out. I think Donald Trump's already talking about he'd bomb the crap out of ISIS. All right. I believe Donald Trump's rhetoric. I don't know if I believe Ted Cruz. That's what I'll say. But regarding Trump, all right, there are some things about Trump that I just don't like. I don't trust. All right, I think Donald Trump, and this is his words, not mine. He says, we've got really stupid people in government. All right, and this is the big difference between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump that I see. All right, and I'd love to hear from you. 360-450-5625, 360-450-5625, or you can get me on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Either one. Love to hear your opinion. But I see Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, where they really differ is this main belief, all right? Ted Cruz believes that, at least this is what he portrays, and again, I can only take him at his word, and I can read into some of the stuff, and I can look at his history based upon his actions, based upon his conduct in the past. Again, Ted Cruz, a man with a proven track record of standing against his own party, being for small government. I mean, he even went against George W. Bush before he was running for office at all. So this is the big difference here. Ted Cruz believes in the small government, or at least that's what he portrays. And Donald Trump, it's not that he believes in small government, because he actually believes in big government. He just thinks that the people running the government are stupid. He just thinks that they're not good managers. He just thinks that they don't know what they're doing. And he would do a better job. Again, I want to remind you guys of the Ben Sass clip that we played earlier. Let me just play this clip one more time. We played it in the first hour. I think this is really, it hits a nail on the head here. It's not about one man having the power to fix it all. It's about the problem is the government is too big. This is a shared project, as Ben Sass says. You know what? I'm just going to play it. He's a lot more eloquent than I am. Here we go.
Let me ask you, because a lot of people are looking to you as one of these future leaders of the conservative movement. What is a conservative in your view today? Define conservatism in the 21st century via Ben Sass.
Oh, thanks. That is a great question. America is the most exceptional nation in the history of the world because the U.S. Constitution is the best political document that's ever been written, because it says something different than almost any people and any government has believed in human history. Most governments in the past said might makes right, and the king has all the power, and the people are dependent subjects. And the American founders said no. God gives us rights by nature, and government is just our shared project to secure those rights. Government is not the author or source of our rights, and you don't make America great again by giving more power to one guy in Washington, D.C. You make America great again by recovering a constitutional republic where Washington is populated by people who are servant leaders, who want to return power to the people and to the communities. Because what's great in America is the Rotary Club. It's small businesses, it's churches, it's schools, it's fire departments, and it's little leagues across this country. What makes America great is not some guy in Washington who says, if I had more power, I could fix it all unilaterally. That's not the American tradition.
Okay, so I think this is the big difference between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. All right, and this just wasn't even part of the plan. This wasn't part of the agenda. I know I'm going off the rails, but I just want to hit this nail on the head here. This is Donald Trump talking about how stupid our leaders are. Donald Trump talking about how stupid our leaders are. Here we go.
Mr. Trump, it has not escaped anybody's notice that you say that the Mexican government is sending criminals, rapists, drug dealers across the border. Governor Bush has called those remarks, quote, extraordinarily ugly. I'd like you're right next to him, talk to him directly and say how you respond to that. And you have repeatedly said that you have evidence that the Mexican government is doing this, but that you have evidence you have refused or declined to share. Why not use this first Republican presidential debate to share your proof with the American people?
So, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration, Chris. You wouldn't.
That's not even true. We've been talking about this for 30 years, but let him continue. I don't know at what point he says this. I YouTube this really fast, so here you go.
Even be talking about it. This was not a subject that was on anybody's mind until I brought it up.
That's not even true. First of all, if you go back in the archives of this show, you can see we've talked about immigration well before Donald Trump started having these aspirations in this race here. So before he even started talking.
At my announcement, and I said Mexico is sending. Except the reporters, because they're a very dishonest lot, generally speaking, in the world of politics, they didn't cover my statement the way I said it. The fact is, since then, many killings, murders, crime, drugs pouring across the border, our money going out and the drugs coming in. And I said, we need to build a wall, and it has to be built quickly. And I don't mind having a big, beautiful door in that wall so that people can come into this country legally. But we need, Jeb, to build a wall. We need to keep illegals out.
Mr. Trump, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Of course, this is going to be at the very end of the video. Here we go.
I'll give you 30 seconds to answer my question, which was, what evidence do you have, specific evidence, that the Mexican government is sending criminals across the border? 30 seconds.
Border Patrol, I was at the border last week. Border Patrol, people that I deal with, that I talk to, they say this is what's happening because our leaders are stupid.
There we go. Okay, here we go. We're getting into it now.
Politicians are stupid, and the Mexican government is much smarter, much sharper, much more cunning, and they send the bad ones over because they don't want to pay for them, they don't want to take care of them. Why should they when the stupid leaders of the United States will do it for them? And that's what's happening, whether you like it or not.
Okay, on multiple occasions, he's basically said this kind of rhetoric that the problem is essentially management. It's stupid leaders. We got bad managers in office right now, and he would be a better manager. Look, he's Donald Trump. He's managed, million-dollar companies, billion-dollar companies, whatever. He's also gone bankrupt, by the way. But don't worry about that part. He would be a better manager. The current leaders are just stupid. And it's not not an issue with the power. It's an issue with stupid management. And I argue, and I think Ted Cruz argues, that it is an issue with the power. The power is the problem. Bernie Sanders, he turns to the government to solutions. Ted Cruz tries to turn to the free market. That's the idea. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and scrap the conversations here about the political analysis because we've gone way over. I knew this was going to happen. Way over on that. So let's go ahead and let's see. We talked about money and politics. All right, so let's go ahead and go right into the United States working behind the scenes to crash the Russian economy. If that's the case, how are they doing it and why? So let me here get to the facts of the case here, all right? So we already know that oil is at rock bottom prices. I just looked up today. Brent oil is at $34 per barrel. I told you guys a few weeks ago the cost of oil, and the cost of oil has gone up just a little bit. It was at, I think, $28 a barrel when I reported this last, but the cost of oil at $28 was less than the cost of the actual barrel. In addition, it was a price of oil of 1 gallon of oil was now 1 gallon of milk was now worth 2 gallons of oil. I'm going to repeat that. 1 gallon of milk was worth 2 gallons of oil. So again, an item that has to be, it's dangerous to pull it out of the ground. You have to process it, do all this crazy refining and things like that, put it into a barrel, into a train, and then into a truck, and load it into a ship, and then ship it across the ocean, and then put that in a truck or a train and transport it across the United States to wherever they're going to go, or and then into all this other stuff, man. I mean, this is a crazy process with oil. I don't even know all the stuff you have to do to get gasoline in your car. I just know it is crazy complicated. So it's cheaper for a gallon of oil, than it is for a gallon of milk, which, it's a local farmer squirting some milk into a bucket, then pasteurizing it, sending it to a local market or something. That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that is more expensive. Milk is more expensive than oil, or at least it was. And again, we're only talking about it going up $6 a barrel. That was at $28 a barrel. Now we're at $34 a barrel. So the Saudi Arabia economy, they're suffering, all right? And this is I think telltale, and I'm starting to really look at this a different way. My thought was that, first of all, I know that Saudi Arabia is trying to crash U.S. shale. I know that this is one of the reasons why they're doing this, but I couldn't figure out why they're continuing. Why are they continuing to pump as much oil as they're pumping, knowing that they're dumping too much supply onto the market and the demand is not there? Why would they do that? They're hurting themselves. And also, you have to understand that Syria, right next door, all right, very unstable situation over there, and they've already had issues with protests and rioting in their own regime there. So they have real legitimacy issues. And one of the ways that Saudi Arabia maintains their legitimacy is they have to buy people, basically. They create, most of the jobs over in Saudi Arabia are government jobs. So essentially, they have all these entitlement programs and things along those lines. Because they're hurting so bad, they're talking about doing income tax now. They're talking about all sorts of stuff, and they need their people to be happy. And the way that they make their people happy is to give them shut-up money. Here, take this money from your government. Shut up. Let me be your king. Don't question us. Don't riot in the streets. Yeah, we're not going to respect your rights, and we're going to enforce Sharia law and treat half the population as cows, essentially. And again, this is how they maintain their legitimacy. But with the economy suffering, they're going to be in some trouble. They're going to have. So why are they still pumping? Why are they making the situation worse? They're low by pumping more supply. They're still making the situation worse. And then the Iran sanctions got lifted. All right, so Iran's going to be dumping millions of gallons of oil into this market. All right, lots and lots of oil that they have. They've just been sitting in tankers. They're ready to go. So boom, now already it's a saturated market, all right? There's already a saturated market with this oil from Saudi Arabia doing this. And first of all, let me read an article here. This is not my opinion. This is NewYorkTimes.com, all right? The New York Slimes, January 27, 2016, title: Saudi Arabia keeps pumping oil despite financial and political risks. All right? They know. This isn't my opinion. This is out there. This is facts. All right? They know that they're risking their legitimacy. And I've already told you guys, there's evidence now that Saudi Arabia has been funding ISIS because ISIS is Sunni and so are the Saudis. Saudis are Sunni and so is ISIS. All right? So they think, oh, okay, Sunnis are friends with Sunnis because that's the ultimate in the Sunni-Shia split thing. That is the ultimate alliance. Are you a Sunni or are you a Shia? If you're a Shia, you're an apostate and I hate you if I'm a Sunni. And vice versa. Okay? The Sunnis and Shias, they hate each other. They think that they're apostates. They think in order to cleanse their religion, the religion of Islam, they have to kill the other side. And it's basically a difference of beliefs. That's why. They just believe different things. And it has to do with the Prophet Muhammad and who should have been the leadership to take up the mantle of the religion, basically. Who's going to be the leader of the religion after Muhammad died. And they believe different people, so because of that, now they got to kill each other. All right? And they're apostates. Anyway, so Saudi Arabia, they are funding ISIS, which is a Sunni group. You would think, okay, that would make sense, but they believe in the revealed word of God as far as the interpretation of the Hadith and the Quran. So the only law that they recognize is Sharia. That's it. They don't recognize man-made law. They don't recognize the legitimacy of any other government. They will not, I can guarantee you, this will not be a relationship that can exist, a friendly, copacetic relationship between ISIS and Saudi Arabia. Not going to happen. ISIS wants that territory. Now, ISIS has been dealt a very significant blow. ISIS is on the retreat right now. They've been getting cut off left and right, and this is thanks to Russian aggression, Russian bombing the crap out of them. The Assad regime has made major gains in Syria. A lot of territory they've gained back now, and ISIS is on the run. But because Russia's economy is completely dependent on oil. I was reading reports earlier that 70% of the money, the wealth in the Russian economy is dependent on petrol. It's petrol oil. I mean petrol money. So even though only I think 30 or 40, I can't remember the exact number now, but like 30 or 40% of the wealth income is from oil. In one way or another, people make money from oil or petroleum, even if it's in a secondary or tertiary way. So the issue with Saudi Arabia, all right, so back to Saudi and ISIS, this situation is risky for them. They're helping out somebody who will probably end up overthrowing them one day. It's my prediction that Saudi Arabia is going to eventually collapse here, have an economic collapse from what they're doing, and I think ISIS is going to also take advantage of that. If they don't instigate some problems prior to that, I think ISIS is going to eventually, if Russia is forced out of there, which we're going to get to that in a second. If Russia is forced out of Syria, I think ISIS is going to grow. I think Saudi Arabia will fall, and I think we're going to have a really big caliphate in the Middle East. And I think this is all backed by, first of all, Saudi Arabia, the United States government. We've got evidence that they've funded, created, trained ISIS, armed ISIS. Again, we know that in Benghazi they were funneling guns to Al Qaeda in Iraq, and that happened to turn into ISIS. It was Al Qaeda in Iraq, then it's ISIS. So we already know that. And we know that they're giving guns to anti-Assad rebels. All right, one man's anti-Assad rebels is another man's ISIS. These guys are the same people. The U.S.-backed rebels are ISIS. They're all the same. They're terrorists. Our government is funding and arming terrorists. And again, they want to take away our rights of privacy. But I digress. So the market's already saturated. Iran's going to be dumping millions or billions of gallons of oil into the market. Russia's economy is dependent on oil, and this is where we need to pull up an article here. Let me see here. I got, all right, $30 oil cliff. This is kind of an interesting story here. I'm going to try to pause this there's a video that's about ready to start playing here. But anyway, for Russia, $30 is the number to watch. And any second, this video. This is a, you know what? This is a Bloomberg.org article, by the way. The article.
No way
there
Saudi
we go.
Arabia's going to cut.
I knew that was going to come up there right when I started talking. All right, the article is titled "$30 Oil Cliff Threatening Russia's Economy." This is written by Andrei Tartar and Olga Tanis, dated November 29th, 2015. So for Russia, $30 is the number to watch. Crude prices at the level will push the economy to depths that would threaten the nation's financial system, according to 15 to 27 respondents in a Bloomberg survey. Lower prices for fuel are next year's biggest risk to Russia, which is unprepared to ride out another shock on the oil market, most economists said. Other dangers for 2016 include geopolitics, strains on the banking industry, and the ruble, according to a poll of 27 analysts. If oil falls lower and stays at that low level for longer, risk of fiscal and financial destabilization increase significantly. So they go on into the article further, and they say while Brent and the European benchmark is trading around $45 at this time, all right, this is before the price dropped significantly, $45 a barrel, and warmer average winter could weaken heating fuel demand enough to trigger a decline in the price of crude to $20. Analysts at Goldman Sachs Incorporation said in a note on November 18th. So basically what they're saying is that if price of oil drops below 30, there's a real problem. And I would argue that we're going to see this thing going even further down as Saudi Arabia continues to pump, as Iran continues to pump, as U.S. shale continues to somehow hang on by a thread, still there. And also, it's important to note, the U.S. economy, I think, is starting to really think that the Obama administration, or the powers that be, whoever's doing it, has organized this economy to fail in order to drive down consumer demand because the economy is tanking. And that's consumer demand for oil, not just everything else. I think that obviously, we have job losses and all these big layoffs that we're going to cover in a moment here. But Obamacare itself, it's destroying this economy. It's turning one full-time job into two part-time jobs because of the required mandate surrounding, actually supplying people with your employees with health care. So even if the mandate wasn't in effect and they kept trying to kick that down the road, it still doesn't matter. These employers are they're seeing what the law is, and they're changing the way that they do business in order to comply with the law in the future, so they don't have to change things later. So if you don't have a job, if your full-time job is now one part-time job, or you have two part-time jobs, and now you have to pay for your own health care insurance because you've lost it because you lost your full-time job, now you got less money to spend. And if you lost your job and you haven't been able to find a job because other people were in the job market trying to get those jobs, and you can't find a full-time job anymore, and you have to you're stuck in this repetitive cycle, you got nowhere to go because you're not going to work. So it's going to get worse, and I'm going to report in a little bit about the job losses and why things are going to continue getting worse. But this is going to be really bad, and the price of oil is going to continue to drop. It's going to hit rock bottom prices. I don't even know. They may start paying you to take it. I don't even know. The other day, by the way, I was with my mom, and I was visiting her. I came in from out of town, and I was driving with her. She went to fill up some fuel and everything. She used her reward points. She got gas for 39 cents a gallon. I got a picture of it. I'll post it on Facebook for you guys. 39 cents a gallon. I had to take a picture of it. I knew, I'm never going to see that again. I'm like, in my life, I probably won't see those kind of prices, very often, except for, when these prices bottom out here. So why would Saudi Arabia keep pumping? And this is the question I keep coming back to. And why I think the U.S. government is actually trying to crash the Russian economy. So this all boils down to the petrodollar, all right? I think that there's a possible deal here with between the United States and Saudi Arabia to get that oil pipeline going from Saudi Arabia into Syria, which Assad has said, no, you're not doing, into Syria, into Turkey, and then up through into Europe, okay? that we're talking about petrodollar here. So the United States has got a deal. Hey, Saudi Arabia, we'll get you this pipeline. You promise you only sell it in U.S. dollars. That way the U.S. dollar appears strong. People have to continue to buy U.S. dollars, which makes their currency look weaker, and ours look stronger because they're buying our dollars, and they want dollars. So it makes the U.S. dollar look strong and look like a great place to put your money. You can park your money, it'll be safe. So I think that the United States has a deal with them, with Saudi Arabia, and I think Saudi Arabia is really overplaying their hand here. And I think that the idea now is to, first of all, Russia's involved in Syria, so it's almost like the Afghanistan situation, where the Soviet Union they overplayed their hand in Afghanistan. It cost them a lot of money, and we were also in the Cold War situation, so the arms race was going on, and we were spending a lot of money, and also the space race, where the Star Wars program, where they would shoot missiles out of the sky with a friggin' laser, that Reagan said, it was just basically a scam to get the Russians to spend more money, because for everything that we do, they have to do another thing to counter that. They have to respond to it. For every action we take, there is a equal or greater reaction on their part. So I'm noticing a repetitive cycle here, and it looks like what they're doing is they've got them involved. I don't think they wanted Russia involved in Syria because they're killing their proxy army, the U.S.-backed rebels in ISIS. This is what the United States government and Saudi Arabia have been funding, among other people, other players involved in this. They have been funding these proxy armies, and they are not happy with the fact that Russia got involved. So what they're doing is they're trying to tank the Russian economy, whose budget, I've heard different reports. The budget for the year was supposed to be, it was set, again, Russia's economy swings in the wind based on oil prices, and their economy, their budget was set for oil prices to be about $90 a barrel, roughly. We're at $34 a barrel now, and the cliff, according to Bloomberg.com, $30 is the cliff, and they've already gone below that, and I believe it's going to go below that even further. So, again, Saudi Arabia is very dependent, extremely dependent on this oil, and they're having problems. Again, I've mentioned some of the issues. They're considering income tax on their people for the first time, and also they had to do shares of Aramco, the biggest oil company in the world, I think, and they're actually doing a share sell. So they're trying to actually sell shares to come up with ways to make money. They're secretly, I've heard reports, selling U.S.-backed treasuries and trying to make some money off of that. Again, that's all secret squirrel stuff I don't really know about, but point being, Saudi is in a tight spot. So why would they continue pumping this oil? I think it's because, one, I think this deal is set up. Also, I think if the Assad government is gone, there's a potential that they maybe have been promised some serious Syrian land, because from what I understand, Syria is a little bit more fertile area than Saudi Arabia is. That's what I've been told. I don't know if that's accurate. I've never been over there, so I don't know. But potentially. But with Russia weakened, with their economy, if their economy collapses, and if Russia is gone out of Syria, if they can no longer continue to fight the U.S.-backed rebels and the U.S.-backed ISIS fighters, essentially, then the U.S. proxies will rush in there, and they'll take over. And then at that point, we're going to be probably set up for some kind of an event. If this is the plan, again, I think they want a World War III. If they put us in a situation with World War III, I think they'll take it, because they need something. They need to cover up the collapse, and they're leaving the door open for us to be attacked here on the homeland. I've said this theory over and over and over again. I don't want to sound like a repetitive, broken record here, but I mean that's what I believe. So there's some kind of event, either World War II or us getting attacked here at the homeland, whether or not it's a real terrorist attack or a false flag. Again, they're leaving us vulnerable by bringing in all these immigrants from Syria, and we can't vet them. There's no way we can vet them properly. So, not that I have a problem with helping people and being humanitarian, but we send them through the proper process. Send them through a very thorough process. And if we can't determine, again, this isn't innocent until proven guilty. All right, we should just assume that you want to kill us until you prove otherwise. And again, we should be selective in our immigration policies. We should make sure that we're getting people here that are going to create American jobs or fill American jobs that we can't find anyone to do. All right? And if you're not going to do that, then we shouldn't let you in. So I digress. Anyway, so I think this is all about that pipeline, and I think that they're planning on trying to crash the Russian economy. So, and I think this is all about trying to prop up that petrodollar, the U.S. petrodollar, because they want to the United States government, in order for the dollar to stay the reserve currency, they have to continue to prop that U.S. petrodollar up. And also, I'm starting to think now that the Iran sanctions were lifted as a way, I don't know how much foresight they have, how far down they're projecting. This may not have been about nuclear weapons at all. It could have been about oil, because maybe they just wanted to lift those sanctions up so that they would flood the market. Iran would flood the market in order to kill the Russian economy. I don't know. But, I mean, that would be a very long game plan. I don't like getting too conspiratorial, but I'm just saying these are the facts of the situation. These are the facts on the ground, and you guys can decide for yourself, what you want to believe. Anywho, let's see here. We're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. When we come back, I think I've got some messages from you guys on Twitter, and I'd like to read some of your thoughts here. So, maybe not. I'm not sure. I've been getting a lot of buzzing over here on my phones. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you guys are messaging me, or maybe I'm getting text messages or something. I don't know. But anyway, we'll be right back after this break, gang. If you would like to join today's conversation, feel free. The number of the show is 360-450-5625. Again, 360-450-5625. When we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to be looking at the constitutional power of the presidential pardon, and I'm going to give you guys some further proof that the economy is collapsing. And if we have time, I'm going to try to squeeze in the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. You guys don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On the Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
All right, we're back. Appreciate you all sticking with us. By the way, if you haven't done so already, if you've made it this far in the program, I would really appreciate it if you just follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. That is SPREAKER.com/OnTheMoveShow. You'd be doing me a huge favor, and it would help out our show. It really would. Really does help. Anyway, so let's go ahead and start with our next featured topic here. Let's look at the constitutional power of the presidential pardon. And first of all, I have some stuff here from you guys. We have a thread on this. I asked you guys, do you think the president or a governor should have the power to pardon? Why or why not? And the majority of you said no. Now, I just want to point out, this is a constitutional power. This power was in the Constitution. It's granted to them. It is there. So, but I want to point out here that there are some problems that I see with this. I have no problem with, first of all, this was supposed to be a check, basically, a check and a balance with the executive branch on the judicial branch in case there was some judicial tyranny. That was the reason why this was there, and I believe in clemency. I believe that's a great thing. The only problem is that this has been used in ways that aren't probably the way it was intended to go. So first, let's start out with the Iran-Contra affair. This is one of the situations that I would like to talk about because, again, I liked Ronald Reagan. All right, I mean, I don't remember Ronald Reagan. That was before my time. But, the things I've heard about him, the speeches he's given, I have liked what he's had to say. So, and I've liked some of his policies with the exception of amnesty, which he said was his biggest mistake. But one of the things that they did is, during the Iran-Contra scandal, basically the government was funding the overthrow of another government. All right, so basically they were trying to overthrow Nicaragua. I can't say that. Nicaragua. I don't know. Can't say it. So they were trying to overthrow this government, and they were. It was basically they were arming the Contras, from what I understand. Now, again, this controversy is before my time, but the Congress had basically cut off funding to all this stuff, and they said, nope, we're not going to fund any of this. And long story short, the regime did some pretty shady stuff. Okay, so let me I'll go through the article here I posted, or I'm sorry, the post that we posted here, and read some of the stuff that you guys had to say. First, we got Billy on Facebook says, yes, but I think there should be stipulations and standards for doing so. The person must qualify. So we're talking about for the presidential pardon. Christopher says, yes, but there should be a very good reason. D says, interesting that you said, talking about something else. Sorry. Virginia, no, absolutely not. Not with this administration. As we have seen, birds of a feather flock together and will only pardon their partners in crime. So, I went in and I was talking about some of the things. And again, this is a constitutional power. This is Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. It states the president shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So, other people said, we got Warren on here, he said, I believe that there should be a process for giving a pardon. That said, I do not think it should be in the hands of an individual. Kel on Facebook said, depends on the crime/charges being pardoned, and if the person is doing the pardoning is somehow a complicit in that crime, i.e. Obama pardoning Hillary. She said Hillary. So one of the things here we got, I talked about here, President George H.W. Bush pardoning Elliot Abrams for his involvement in the Iran-Contra scandal. Bush was the VP during the Reagan administration, and he was arguably deeply involved in the scandal since he admitted he was one of the few people who knew everything, although he managed to avoid getting tied to it in the investigation. After Bush was elected, he started pardoning his former colleagues, and I posted the article on our group there. It's the Iran-Contra affair after 20 years. So... And also, I posted another article talking about Bill Clinton's pardoning fugitive Mark Rich. So basically, he's benefited in a lot of ways. And basically, long story short, my issue here is that the United States government, the office of the presidency, yeah, there are a lot of cases where the pardon has been used in ways that I would consider humanitarian and good, and I'd have no problem with them using it in those ways. However, what I'm starting to notice is something disturbing, and it's that this presidential pardon is being used to basically promise cohorts that they'll protect you. So in situations like a scandal or something, okay, where let's just use Operation Fast and Furious, for example, okay? President Obama claimed executive privilege on the records, and former Attorney General Eric Holder said he wasn't going to say anything. He was not going to talk about it. He denied the subpoena, and he was the only Attorney General in the history of the United States to be held in contempt of court. Okay, contempt of Congress, excuse me. And anyway, let's say he was being prosecuted and they found him guilty, and President Obama decided that because he could promise to Eric Holder, keep your mouth shut, I'll make sure that you don't do any time. If you are convicted, I will pardon you. Just do not link it to the administration. Don't link this to me. And if he says he's not going to talk, if he won't talk and he won't tell anybody that Obama is the one responsible for Fast and Furious, which I believe this goes all the way up to the top, running guns into Mexico in order to prove that American guns are the problem with violence in Mexico. All right. That's what I believe he was trying to do. He's basically trying to guilt the American people into giving up their right to keep and bear arms. But he could use a presidential pardon to get Eric Holder out of jail. All right, we saw that with the Iran-Contra scandal. We see it with the Clintons. I just feel like this has been used wrong. This tool has been used to allow lawlessness. So I believe that the following categories of people should be ineligible to receive a presidential pardon. And I'd love to hear from you. You guys can message me on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, because we're running up to the last 15 minutes of the show. You probably won't be able to get a word in edgewise. Or you can call us 360-450-5625. You can get us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. But for me, I think that the following three categories of people should not be eligible to receive a presidential pardon due to a conflict of interest. Number one, anyone construed to be a government official or public servant, because they should be held to the highest standard. We should not give them any special preferential treatment, and I don't think it could be argued that a presidential pardon is a right. It's obviously a privilege, because not everybody will get it, and it's a case-by-case situation. So as a public servant or a government official, you are in the situation of being a servant. You're in a position of servitude. Therefore, you should, by definition, have less rights than the people you're serving. You should have to sacrifice, and one of those things should be is if you have been found guilty of a crime, you shouldn't be able to get out of it. So anyone construed to be a government official or public servant should not be eligible to receive a presidential pardon. Anyone who knows the president, or anyone who the president knows or knows through another party within 2 degrees of separation. So if you've donated to his campaign, if you know him personally, or you know a person who knows him personally, if you're a friend of a friend, I don't think that should make you eligible. I think you should be ineligible. And I understand people say, "Oh, well, that's not fair." You know, just because he knows you, that doesn't. Again, this is not a right. This is a privilege. The presidential pardon, you've gone through the prison system, the court system, and they found you to be guilty. We have a process there. Yeah, I believe that process is a lot of times tyrannical. A lot of times it violates your rights. However, this is a privilege, not a right, that we're talking about here. So clemency is great. Clemency is great, but if you know the president, do you really think that you'll be prosecuted? Let me just ask you, if you're friends of the president, do you think you're going to be prosecuted? Look at Hillary Clinton, by the way. Hillary Clinton is, in order for them to even bring charges against her, the Obama Justice Department has to prosecute her. If it was anybody else, I guarantee you, if this was anybody else, if it was me, if it was you, if it was anyone else, but the elite of the elite, they would be already prosecuted. One, probably sitting in Leavenworth, or some federal penitentiary somewhere. You know, it would be pretty bad. If they did what Clinton did with with having these emails on a private server, these top secret, hundreds of classified emails on a private server, they would be in jail. But because she knows Obama, it's never going to be even bring charges. So again, the elites are protected. Even if you know Obama, you could just be like, "Hey, Obama, don't prosecute me, please." All right. I don't think that if there's so much public pressure around the issue that they can't just decide not to prosecute and just sweep it under the rug, that they should be able to get out of jail free with a presidential pardon. And the last place here is anyone who's donated to a fund, or any fund, election fund, something, anybody who's given money to the president that can be construed in any way to benefit him in some way, shape, or form. If they have paid money and it has benefited the president in some way, they should not be allowed to buy a presidential pardon. I disagree with that. Again, not a right, it's a privilege. So I don't think that putting these 3 stipulations on this power is an issue. And I don't have an issue with the power of clemency, the power to pardon being in just one hand, but I don't think that it should be able to be used to get your cronies out of trouble. That's just my point of view. I'd love to hear from you guys. Give us a call, 360-450-5625, or at On The Move Show on Twitter, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Okay, so another feature topic here. Further proof that the economy is collapsing. Let's go ahead and get at it here. So first of all, we got 22 signs of economic turmoil on the horizon. This is an article on zerohedge.com dated February 5th. So first one, the number of job cuts in the United States skyrocketed 218% during the month of January, according to Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. The Baltic Dry Index just hit yet another brand new all-time record low. As I write this article, it is sitting at 303. U.S. factory orders have now dropped for 14 months in a row. And in the U.S., the Restaurant Performance Index just fell to the lowest level that we have seen since 2008. Number 5, in January, orders for Class 8 trucks, the big trucks that you see shipping stuff around the country on our highways, declined by a whopping 48% from a year ago. Number 6, rail traffic is also slowing down substantially. In Colorado, there are hundreds of train engines that are just sitting there on the tracks with nothing to do. Number 7, corporate profit margins peaked during the third quarter of 2014 and have been declining steadily since. This usually happens when we're heading into a recession. Number 8, a series of extremely disappointing corporate quarterly reports is sending stock after stock plummeting. Here is a summary from Zero Hedge of a few examples that they have just witnessed. Shares of Lionsgate Entertainment fall 5% in extended trade after quarterly results. Tableau software shares tumble 40% in after-hours trading. YRC worldwide shares down 16.4% after the ball following results. Splunk Incorporated shares down 7.6% in after-hours trading. LinkedIn shares extended decline, down 24% after results. Was it Hanesbrand? Hanesbrand, that's what it is. Hanesbrand shares further add to losses in extended trade, last down 14.9%. Outer Wall shares fall 11%. Glenworth shares down 16.5%. Okay, so the number 9 reason, junk bonds continue to crash on Wall Street. On Monday, junk was down to 32.60 and HYG was down to 77.99. On Thursday, this is number 10. On Thursday, a major British news source publicly named 5 large European banks that are considered to be in very serious danger. Number 11, Deutsche Bank, I don't know how that says. Anyway, is the biggest bank in Germany, and it has more exposure to derivatives than any other bank in the world. Unfortunately, the credit default swaps are now telling us that there is deep turmoil at that bank, and that complete implosion may be imminent. Number 12, last week we learned that Deutsche Bank had lost a staggering 6.8 billion euros in 2015. If you will recall, I warned, this is Tyler Durden from Zero Hedge, I warned about massive problems at Deutsche Bank. I hope I'm saying this right. Deutsche Bank? I don't know. All the way back in September. The most important bank in Germany is exceedingly troubled, and it could end up being for the EU what Lehman Brothers was for the United States. Number 13, Credit Suisse. I don't know how to say this either. Sorry, guys, I suck at reading. Just announced that it will be eliminating 4,000 jobs. Royal Dutch Shell has announced that it will be eliminating 10,000 jobs. Caterpillar announced that it will be closing 5 plants and getting rid of 670 workers. Yahoo has announced that it's going to be getting rid of 15% of its total workforce. Johnson & Johnson has announced that it is slashing the workforce by 3,000 jobs. Sprint just laid off 8% of its workforce, and GoPro is letting go 7% of its workers. All over America, retail stores, this is number 19, sorry I skipped a few number in these. All over America, retail stores are shutting down at a staggering pace. The following list comes from my previous articles. Again, this is his article here. Walmart closing stores, Kmart, JCPenney, Macy's, The Gap, Aeropostale, Finish Line, Sears. Number 20. According to the New York Times, the Chinese economy is facing a mountain of bad loans that could exceed $5 trillion. Number 21, Japan has implemented a negative interest rate program in a desperate attempt to try to get banks to make more loans. They are paying these banks to take money. Number 22, the global economy desperately needs the price of oil to go up, but Morgan Stanley says that we will not see $80 a barrel for oil again until 2018. That is an article, too, that I have here from them. I won't even bother reading it now since it's in this list. But, yeah, till 2018, we're not going to go back up to $80 a barrel, which, again, as I have mentioned, Russia's budget, from what I have read, is projected at $90 a barrel. They are in some serious trouble. So we got 7 minutes left in the program. Let me go ahead. You know what? I'm going to cut right to the election of, I'm sorry, not the election, the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. We don't have much time, but let's go ahead and get to it. Essentially, I'm going to have to boil a lot of this down because we don't have a whole lot of time. But let's see. Andrew Johnson, he became the president after Lincoln was assassinated April 1865, and immediately focused on restoring the Union, basically. He wanted to bring the Confederate states back into the government with maximum speed, and he really didn't want to disturb the institutions surrounding it. So he basically... his policies placed the former rebel Confederates in political control of nearly every, and this is according to a post. It's called A New Look at the Impeachment of Andrew Johnson, written by Michael Les Benedict. So basically, it put the Confederates in political control of nearly every southern state and left southern blacks to the mercy of the men who had fought so desperately to keep them in bondage. So basically, Andrew Johnson, he was unsympathetic towards any kind of situation happening to the blacks, any kind of rights violations, and there were also some people in Congress that he was calling radical Republicans. Long story short, there was a conflict between what Johnson was trying to do and what Congress was trying to do, and basically Johnson kept acting against Congress and trying to use the military to threaten them. And then there was an issue where the so-called radical Republicans were talking about impeaching President Johnson, but the establishment said, no, we're not going to impeach President Johnson. They blocked their own party. The establishment Republicans blocked their own party from trying to impeach Johnson, who was acting against Congress's laws that they were doing, and basically trying to take control and put his own guys in the military. That way, he could use them to enforce his will. And again, this is kind of a similar correlation. Obama did the purge of the military, put his own guys in, and nowadays we're seeing our own establishment, our establishment. Who's even talking about impeaching Obama? By the way, he's violated the Constitution in more ways than I got time for. I only got 4 minutes, but basically, after a while, it became clear that Johnson's actions were in fact illegal. It violated the law, and it forced them to actually impeach President Johnson. So none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for these so-called radicals that were standing up against Johnson and putting him in these positions where he had to actually, because again, he had to violate the law, and these laws would not be there if it wasn't for the actions taken by these so-called radical Republicans. And it just goes to show you, I really wish I could have spent a lot more time on this, and I would like to later on. Maybe I'll do a video on YouTube, because I just don't. There's so much going on in the news. I don't have time on a 3-hour show to cover this, to give this the kind of depth that it really needs. But point being is that if it wasn't for the actions of these so-called radical Republicans, there would be no impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. And what I want you guys to take out of this is that even if it's a battle that you don't think you can win, there are merits in fighting it, just for the simple fact that you're actually bringing awareness, number one, to your cause, and number two, you don't know, even if you don't win this battle, you don't know if it's going to inspire somebody down the road to join your fight, just because you stepped in and you stood up when you were in a David and Goliath situation. You didn't think that you could win. It may inspire other people to come to your banner. But more importantly, you may cause someone to react in a way that will bring more people to your cause. Like, for example, if we're talking about, civil disobedience, Dr. Martin Luther King, how could he have won against the United States government? How could he have won from southern sheriffs who were determined to hurt him? They hurt him. They beat them. They beat these people with clubs. And what happened is they played this footage on the news. And what that did is it caused people to rally around the cause. So I'm just saying, just because the fight, you may not think that you can win, that doesn't mean it's not worth fighting. There are causes that you might lose, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't fight it nonetheless. Anyway, that's all we got time for today. I wish we had more time. Big shout out to the Mac Pack. I got a bunch of other clips that I would have liked to play. Go ahead and check out Daylight Disinfectant on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Daylight Disinfectant. That's a friend of mine, Dan Sandini. He's doing some good stuff on there, some clips I wanted to play. You guys can check them out yourself. Check out our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. Follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow, and subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.